Right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, members of council, for being here, members of our staff. We have a special council meeting today. There basically is only one item on the agenda that's significant, and that's to review our procedure bylaw. However, we do have a full agenda to keep our procedures working as they are today. So let's start with our agenda. This is Thursday, September the 12th, 2024, and we have the approval of the agenda. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the special council meeting agenda dated September 12th, 2024 as presented. Mover and seconder, Mr. Walker, Ms. Deneen, thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Disclosure pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. If anything comes up during the meeting, please bring it forward and we'll deal with it right away for you. Public participation period. Now, we do have public participation period during this special meeting. I do want to highlight that the purpose of this meeting is for public engagement and an opportunity to hear from the public. So in our current bylaw, special council meetings do not include public participation period. However, the clerk and I discussed this when we set the agenda that we would, of course, have this because public participation period is a big part of what we are looking for in the content of this meeting. So we do have public participation period. As you know, there's a script here that was been prepared. Just for the record, I will read it. And it says, please be advised that comments and views expressed under public participation are not the views of the Township of Clearview Council or the administration. Happenings is calling. That's okay. He's got a great ringtone, you know, it's a good one. Continuing on, public participation is limited to 15 minutes. Each person is limited to 5 minutes. Questions or comments will be directed to the mayor, and questions shall not refer to personnel matters, litigation, or potential litigation or planning matters that have already had a public meeting or any item considered confidential. And as always, we always ask for you to please share the time with your fellow citizen. Now, I read that out because that is a very important part of why we wanted to do this, because we want to make sure that the public participation period, both in person and electronically online, is available underneath our current procedure bylaw. That being said, you might note that at other council meetings, I often ask our deputy clerk if there are any electronic participations in today's meeting. And so I'll ask that question now.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, there was one online submission that I believe the clerk will summarize in her presentation.
Thank you very much. We did, in fact, receive an electronic participation on the discussion today about procedure bylaw. So I'll go to the clerk. The clerk can handle that, and then I can help answer a little bit of it if you like. Is that all right, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Worship. Through you to the rest of council. Yes, we did receive an online submission from Samantha Margis. And she's looking for an addition to the new procedure bylaw, so a subsection under 7.5 for public participation period. And it's regarding written submissions. And she's requested that written submissions meeting the above criteria will be published online, omitting address details via the council meeting agenda, and will be included in the meeting's official public record. And she advises that this was the process and format for years, and the residents of Clearview Township deserve to have it both reinstated and formalized, and believes that it's a good tool to engage the public. And just summarizing at the meeting isn't enough.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. There's a few items in Ms. Margis's comments that are actually untrue. It was never actually part of procedures here to publish these minutes or these questions as part of the agenda. The procedure that was drafted to create public participation electronically came at a time when this municipality, like many others across Ontario and across the world, were dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. And the electronic participations, while they did for a few council meetings appear as part of the agenda, for clarity, that is not part of the procedure. And so that's not been approved procedure and approved activity. The point of public participation period and for council's consideration is to know that we as a council give an opportunity for the public to engage us at the podium during our regular meetings when we're all gathered here, and we can then hear directly from the public if they have questions or concerns about anything to do with municipal governance or any issues about the municipality. That's their opportunity to speak to us. We did create the guideline, as I pointed out, in regards to 15 minutes and 5 minutes per person. Council, you may know that it's always been my personal procedure as the mayor that I'm not going to cut somebody off unless I find that they're either repeating themselves or if they're behaving and using derogatory language and or slanderous accusorial language that's inappropriate or inappropriate for council meeting. So I generally allow the 15-minute time period to continue on. In regards to Ms. Marges's direct question, I can point out that the written notices like this one that we've received here today, all members of council receive this same email. When an email is sent to the portal through the website portal, the 7 members of council and the clerk's department receive a copy of this email. So the point is that when someone uses the electronic portion of public participation period, they are in fact communicating with all members of the decision-making body, much the same as if they were standing at the microphone. So their comments are received by all the members. So that I think is a positive part of electronic participation. The preferred method, obviously, is to come to the microphone and speak right here in the chambers. This is the public's chambers. We're here serving the public, and that's why public participation rolls out like it does. If there's any questions or comments, since this is sort of an open workshop session, anybody have any questions about the comments that I've made in regards to the interpretation of public participation period? Seeing none, thank you very much. Well, we're going to close the public participation period then for this portion of this special meeting. And we can maybe mark it on the calendar. This is the first time during a special meeting we've had this participation. Moving on in our agenda, though, we do have the procedure bylaw update, which is the council is going to review this. First, before we go ahead with that, we would want to point out that this has been a terrific procedure. Thank you to our clerk, our deputy clerk, our clerk staff, the senior management team, our CAO, have all sort of had a bit of a chance to chip in on the comments that are in the draft procedure bylaw that was written and penned underneath the clerk's department and our clerk. And so I want to thank them for the work on that. Members of council have had an opportunity to submit some of their comments on it as per the request when we had it at a previous council meeting. I know the clerks have received that. And now I'm going to ask if our staff would like to do a full presentation on the procedure bylaw. Our clerk is going to take the podium, and our attention will be given to her as she delivers her presentation from there. Again, really happy that we have finally got to this point. As Sasha and I were speaking just before the meeting, it's over 12 years since we've had a really good review of the procedure bylaw. So, Madam Clerk, nice to see you at this angle. Hope you have the microphone turned on. We look forward to hearing your presentation.
Test, test. Yes, we do. Thank you, Worship and Council. It's a packed house tonight, so I'm a little bit nervous with all these people here. So for those that may not know me or maybe tuning in online, my name is Sasha Helmke-Plater. I have to make sure I say the Plater at the end because my husband might be watching. And today we're going to make a presentation on behalf of the clerk's department regarding the procedure bylaw. As Mayor Measures stated, it's been 12 years in the making to get to this meeting today because the last one was passed in 2012. And it's our goal together to create a document that will guide us into the future. Next slide, please. All right, so a little bit of a background on procedure bylaws. So every municipality is legislated under the Municipal Act to have a procedure bylaw to govern the proceedings of council and committees and boards of the municipality. So essentially the document guides the order and dispatch of business at a meeting. Clearview's current procedure bylaw was passed in 2012 with amendments being made throughout the past 12 years. Many of those amendments were made during the pandemic to enable the municipality to pivot under the state of emergency and to transition to electronic meeting participation, which previous to that was not permitted. Next slide, please. So our current procedure bylaw, what does it cover? So it covers the proceedings of council meetings and the township's committee and boards, except for the library board, the OPP detachment board, and the committee of adjustment/property standards committee. It outlines the different types of council meetings, so regular, special, like today's meeting, emergency, priority, inaugural, closed session, and workshop. It outlines the general rules, decorum of members, the agenda proceedings, common motions, rules of debate, closed meeting protocol, quorum, and duties of the chair. In relation to the library boards, we'll go back to the first point. They are regulated under the Public Libraries Act and are excluded as a local board under the Municipal Act with reference to procedure bylaws specifically. And this is covered under Section 238 of the Municipal Act. So that's why our procedure bylaw isn't governed to the library board. The police service or detachment boards are treated the same. Committee of Adjustments are quasi-judicial and set their own procedures for hearings, as is the same with the Property Standards Committee. So that's the explanation why they're excluded. Next slide, please. So what doesn't the current procedure bylaw cover? So since 2012, procedure bylaws have evolved to not only include the roles and responsibilities of the chair, but the mayor, council, as well as the CAO and clerk. Specific procedures and rules governing closed session meetings have evolved since 2012. And the current bylaw is also silent on the conduct of the public when attending meetings, with guidance being provided from Robert's Rules of Order. It's important to include some of the key responsibilities of not only elected officials, but some of the administration as well. This to show how each of our roles work together in providing efficient and effective meetings. Next slide, please. So it's time to modernize. So the draft new procedure bylaw. So if we go back to the spring, back in May, council approved remaining with the regular council meeting format as opposed to changing to a committee of the whole structure. From this meeting, the clerk's department drafted a new procedure bylaw that encompasses many of the aspects of the current bylaw. We're adding additional provisions and formatting, clarifying certain sections for effectiveness. Council was presented with the first draft on July 22nd, and we requested feedback to be provided by August 6th to discuss today at this special meeting. Staff also engaged the township committee and board members by inviting them to provide their comments by August 9th. Public were invited to provide written comments or attend today's meeting to give their feedback. Although staff did not receive any specific feedback from committee and board members, it was good to engage all stakeholders in the process. The public is also an important stakeholder that can provide valuable input on procedures that work for Clearview's meeting structures. As meeting attendees, valuable input can be gained from their experience at meetings and the procedures that the township follows. Next slide, please. So the next slides at a high level will review each of the sections of the new procedure bylaw, providing the opportunity for council to discuss the different provisions. Any feedback received by members of council, committees, or boards for each section will also be highlighted and discussion and possible inclusion in the new bylaw. The format of the next slides is to provide context for each of the main sections, discuss council's feedback, any of the clerk's commentary or feedback based on that, and then let council discuss the item before moving to the next slide. So without further ado, let's get started. So definitions. So definitions have always been included in the township's different procedure bylaws. So some new updates to highlight that are contained in the new draft is additional definitions about confirmatory bylaw, consent agenda, delegate or delegation, deputy mayor, a friendly amendment, although we've used it in practice, we've never actually defined it. Priority meeting, we've had this discussion before about using the term emergency meeting when it's not emergency, and local board. Some definitions have been included within another definition, so head of council is now referenced under the mayor. Next slide, please. So we did get some feedback from council members regarding definitions, and then the first one is from Mayor Measures. So he's requested we add a definition regarding public engagement, which means a tool used by council to ask for input from the public during a meeting. This would be more specific to special meetings where there's not a regular agenda item for public participation, and provide the chair the ability to engage the public on information being provided at the meeting. So our comment is, instead of creating maybe a new definition, we could add more information under public participation period, and reiterate that special meetings can include public engagement as well. So as Mayor Measures said at the top of the meeting, it's been silent in our past procedure bylaws, and our practice is we haven't included public participation at special meetings unless it's been an actual public meeting normally seen under the Planning Act. So Like today, we've added public participation, so I think it would be a good addition if we've included that in. And I'll turn it over to the chair.
Thank you very much. Members of council, do you have any questions on this item? Or would you like me to further explain it? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
You'll probably explain it, but
That's okay.
the question, public engagement, we'll call it. People want to talk in a lot of cases with certain members of this council. If you have a concern from your ward, they want to talk to their ward representative. In the definition still, it calls the chair the ability to engage the public. Will we be allowing, or I mean, Doug, Mayor Measures, you're unique in that you allow us if we need to, but will it be put in a bylaw that says, hey, the council member will be allowed to engage?
I see your point. My feeling is that as a person who's a chair of the meeting during public participation, I think it's important that the public have the opportunity to speak to the head of council. And if the head of council can look to the council, if they have comments they'd like to add. But I think the engagement needs to be to all of council through the head. So I think it's important that questions or directions be asked, or questions or explanations be seek by the public through the chair. And then if members wish to speak, as you know, I'm pretty open about, if you want to speak, raise your hand, show me your yellow card, which, by the way, that just reminds me, we've never included the cards in our procedure bylaw either. That's something that just struck me. Nevertheless,
Should we for future add it that it's the chair's decision to refer it to a council member?
sure, yeah,
It could be added to that just so that in future situations,
Yeah.
Doug, where there's other people who do not want to pass it, they have the ability, and it's
absolutely, yeah.
so it's just something that
You want to make it all inclusive so that the chair has the opportunity to exercise discretion to
Correct.
move the meeting forward, but also has the ability and responsibility to look to the councillors if they wish to participate,
so
right?
it's still exactly, it still
Yeah.
goes to the chair, but at his discretion can.
I think that's good procedure. Sasha, would you agree a good procedure would always be to go through the chair on pretty much everything?
Thank you, Worship. That's correct. I think you as the chair presiding over the meeting, it's good to start with you first and then move to the other council members, just to keep that consistency.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay.
Anybody else with any other questions, comments about the whole business of a community engagement or public participation period? Okay, again, I just want to clarify. I personally see the public engagement when we're dealing with a specific or singular topic. And when this first came to light was, for instance, when we were asked in a real hurry by the province of Ontario to consult with the public about cannabis and cannabis retail. It was one topic and we need to hold a public meeting on it. It's not a public meeting underneath the Planning Act. It was just we were asked to consult. So it was not a public participation period, in my opinion, because public participation allows the citizen to come forward and ask questions on a multitude of topics. The public engagement is on a specific topic. So today is a specific topic. We're talking about the procedure bylaws. So it's a specific topic. I consider this a public engagement session. Does that make any sense to anybody? I got some heads nodding and some people scowling. What are you thinking? Go ahead.
I'll just use a more recent example, and I think it's the same. We weren't here for the cannabis discussion,
No.
but we were here for the talk about the cell tower.
Yes, but that's a planning act thing.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was wondering if it was under the same direction, but it's not. That was under planning.
I think I can provide some context. So similar for the ATV bylaw, there was no statutory requirements for us to do public meetings regarding that, but we did a special meeting to engage the public. And I think that's what Mayor Measures is probably referring to.
Thank you for catching that one as well. Anybody else? Robert, you've been around a lot of council meetings. Do you consider that to be a valid part of how we do our business?
Yeah. Give them that opportunity, even if it's a one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree. And I think, Sasha, your recommendation to include it as something we can add to a special council meeting If it's going to have a specific one topic or one subject matter piece, so a special council meeting is generally about something special, so, or identified as a singular activity. So I think that we can consult with that, and through the discretion of the clerk's office and the office of the mayor, the CAO, we can assemble the agenda to accommodate that. Does that sound fair? Okay. All right. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for adding that in. Do you have more to talk about? I'm thinking.
We do.
You do. Go ahead.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you, council.
So the next one is under definitions, and it's Mayor Measures again. And he requested that we add a definition for town hall meetings to ensure clarity in what these meetings are. So i.e. no decisions are made, is for information sharing, and as such, no minutes are taken. So town hall meetings are for residents to meet and can be organized by the township, by council members or other groups, or the development community. So just the clerk's department commentary on this is that it is beneficial to have this definition of town hall meeting in the procedure bylaw because it's being used more and more as a tool for public engagement. The only change to the above proposal that we would suggest is to remove that it can be organized by other groups or the development community. If the township's not organizing the meeting through staff or council, then it would be considered a separate meeting outside the purview of the municipality. This doesn't mean that council members can't attend those other meetings organized by these separate groups to be part of the information sharing and bring it back to council. So I'll leave it to the chair.
Thank you. Good commentary. I appreciate that. Any thoughts from members of council? Robert, or sorry, Paul?
So a quick question, Sasha, if you can explain it. If an individual group would like to hold a meeting, unless we do it through the township, it's not considered a town hall meeting, correct?
Correct.
If we decide to participate with them, we can turn the tables and make it a town hall meeting, correct? If we decide with our staff to do it.
If we are dictating the narrative and we are coming up with the general discussion at that meeting and we're organizing it, yes. I think a good example is the Lions Club or the Stainer Kinsmen may have meetings of their separate group and maybe talking about interests of the community. So maybe a new park, and they might invite a council member, the ward councilor or the mayor to come to that meeting about that information that they want to share. So that's not a township town hall meeting, but it's definitely being engaging with council. So those meetings can still occur, but they wouldn't be fit under that town hall meeting structure where council or staff are initiating that specific public engagement.
Okay. Do we have a definition of a meeting whereby the public wants to organize a meeting and wants us to, we'll say, visit it?
We wouldn't have a definition like that in our procedure bylaw because technically that's outside the purview of the municipality. We wouldn't have control over that town hall. You would just be invited as an attendee.
Okay. For example, we had that meeting in Ottawa for the park. What would we consider that a town hall meeting?
Yes, because it was organized by the municipality. The recreation department was there. We had other department assets there. The ward councillor, the mayor and the deputy mayor were there. I would consider it a town hall discussion.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
it was, you know, ideally if it was organized by the local residents and we were invited to attend, that makes it focused on a specific issue that they want to bring up. But I think, you know, the purpose of my submission to this, the council, was that the word town hall gets bandied around quite a bit. And some of these town hall meetings are not part of the municipal structure. The developer meeting that happened in Ottawa had nothing to do with us. Many of us attended, but it really had nothing to do with this table or the decision-making of this table. It was entirely hosted by a development group. And I'll give you another one that's also interesting. I was thinking, Councillor Broderick of the Chamber of Commerce. Last term, the Chamber of Commerce held a very good meeting. It was a town hall meeting to discuss perhaps creating a BIA in the downtown. And so it was a sort of an information meeting that was hosted up at the community center, but it wasn't hosted by the municipality. It was hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. It wasn't a municipal event. So it was you could consider it a town hall style meeting, but it wasn't part of the municipal structure. Does that make sense, John?
It does.
Turn your mic on, friend. Turn your mic on.
Turn your mic.
Yeah, it does. At the time, lacking a definition, I had thought it was a town hall meeting because there were, Robert Walker and I, as counselors, had organized the meeting itself.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought it was organized by the chamber.
No, well, it was initiated by the chamber, but no, it was,
See there, yeah, okay, I'm following it. There you go, Sasha. This is where the clarity of why it's a town hall or not. Is it a municipal function or not? You see? So if I can just ask the clerk for her interpretation, you know, the Chamber of Commerce starts it. They work with two members of council. They invite a whole bunch of people to come and talk about an issue. Town hall meeting or not?
Thank you, Worship. So if it was eventually given to the council members to organize, so the community group was like, I think we need to have a meeting to discuss these types of issues that are going on in our area. And you, as council members, organized it and worked out with the township of where you were going to hold it. And we discussed what the intent of the meeting was and the content of the meeting, then that would be a town hall meeting. But if it was a chamber that was putting on the content, we had no control or didn't know what the content of the meeting was, then that is not a town hall meeting. It's being run by the chamber.
Okay, so there you go.
Okay.
See, this is why the clarity I asked for. Thank you, guys. Did you have something to say? Go ahead, Paul.
I have two quick questions. One is, if we have more, like you're talking, this example, two members showed up from council. If we have more than 4 members show up, does that not automatically become a council meeting?
Yeah, that's part of the difficulty of being a community council. Sasha, your interpretation, please.
Thank you. So this is why you'll see in Mayor Measure's definition that he's proposing that no decisions are being made. So it's a two-prong approach there for when it's constitute a meeting of council. So quorum is definitely one of them. And if you're moving the business of the municipality and you're making decisions at that meeting.
So
You're
even if
just gathering information at town hall meetings, engaging the public, but no decisions are being made.
Okay. The other question I have, and it's just to throw a curveball, should we change the name from town hall meeting to something else?
Well, yeah. I'll tell you what, let's go to Marty first. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
See what other people have to say. Marty's up and then Robert. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm wondering about the Climate Action Committee. They're probably going to want to hold at some time some kind of a town hall meeting. Would they be best to have the township organize it and then we could approve the topic and content? Or are they allowed to go organize a meeting on their own and then it won't be a town hall meeting? Like,
There, so the Climate Action Committee is, as I understand it, is a committee of council. And so the committee of council can move forward and work on creating those things. They just need to get some approvals from council and or the staff resource who works on that committee.
so that's what they would need to do then.
Absolutely.
Approval from council and or staff.
Yeah, the staff resource on all of our committees would be able to help clarify that. But certainly if it's a town hall meeting where you would invite all the members of council and or members of the public to have a discussion about singular items, to the point that Sasha just made, you wouldn't want to move the business of the corporation forward at that town hall meeting.
Right.
Councilors,
Thank you. That
mayor and
helps.
deputy mayor would be there to receive information
That helps.
at best.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Can I just
Robert?
make-
Sorry, Sasha, go ahead.
I just want to provide a point of clarification for an advisory committee of council. So if an advisory committee, whether it be climate or accessibility, want to put on a town hall meeting or a session with different speakers, they would make a recommendation to council saying, these are our ideas. Council can be like, yep, those are great ideas. But the approval mechanism comes from a recommendation from the committee to council. And that way everyone's engaged. And then council can decide at that time, oh, yep, we're moving the business of the municipality. This is in line with our strategic goals. This makes sense.
Helpful. Thank you. Robert?
Yeah, Your Worship, part of my comment was, I think town hall definition needs to be looked at. Because I look at, if you look at the battery meeting that was in Brentwood.
Yes.
Wasn't conducted by us, but they called it the town hall meeting. So we need to either disengage the name town hall, or we need to put it as a public meeting. Anything we do create as a town hall, and any developers or windmills or outside groups are not, maybe they can't use the word town hall, but they use it as a public information session. Yeah. To me, that breaks it away from the township then.
Perfect. We'll come back to this. John wants to speak. Mr. CAO.
Yeah, it's great conversation because they've used the word town hall meetings for years. And in many cases, it's not referred to the town hall at all. So it's a figure of speech.
It is.
You'll even see MPs and MPPs going out in the community and calling it a town hall meeting. It's just a meeting with the community, but they call it a town hall. Back when the Empire Loyalists first came up, and Empire Loyalists here in Ontario, the Americans liked the term town hall meetings because they got together and they were making decisions and exchanging ideas, but they weren't really the town, right? They called them town hall meetings. So it's a figure of speech, but it's also a formal piece with respect to when the municipality uses it. So that's the confusion, and I don't know if you'll ever correct it because it'll always be a figure of speech. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead, Phyllis. Oh, good. Can you turn your mic on, please? Sorry.
Try this again. Sorry. It's the Cambridge Dictionary, a public meeting at which a politician or official speaks about his or her policies and answers questions from members of the public.
Great definition.
There you go. Okay.
So it is.
You've stirred it up, Paul. Thanks very much. Thank you, Phyllis. Go ahead, Robert.
So a follow-up to that is politician.
Yes,
So therefore, if it's an outside group, it's not called town hall meeting.
Yeah.
right.
So I think we need to break it away. And as I said earlier, town hall is strictly related to municipality and
Yeah.
government context.
Go ahead, Paul.
The only question, we see it happen in the old days, they had one town hall and that was it. We have town halls, we have the community center, we have our small halls, we can have meeting station. We have all these different locations. And what, in this day and age, I know we have electronic, correspondence with people, but the definition of town hall means we're gonna be in here. And that's where my concern, we change it, we haven't put our heads together yet to think of an alternate name, but
Yeah.
it's sort of a, I like what you said on the description of public participation event. Like that's a perfect definition, but for the word town hall, I think is a, I don't call it archaic, but it's a.
Yeah. It's interesting if I can point out, I've watched Clearview Council for many, many years. And one of the meetings that I specifically remember them talking, our predecessors, about building this building where we're sitting here today. And the Stainer Town Hall was referred to as the Stainer Town Hall, and that's what they used as a facility for the Clearview work. But when this was being built, they made a huge point, Councillor McKee, about calling this the administration center. This was not the Clearview Town Hall. And so that's why it says those words on the outside of our building. It also, it's the brass plaque at the inside of the door. Just saying, but we know it as a town hall because this is where we do the municipal business. But I'm just saying is that back when we were building this building, the discussions in 2000, I remember covering it. And it was a big discussion point because it was a change. It is a change from a traditional phrase. So did you have something, Phyllis? Yes. Yeah.
A building in which local government officials and employees work, in which public meetings may be held.
Right. There you go. Go ahead, John.
Just a caveat, I think it's important that we don't tie town hall meetings specifically to the town hall. It's just some meetings are going to be too large to hold
for
here.
sure. From this discussion, do you and your clerk's department have enough to work from?
Thank you.
I don't want to give you direction, but I'm thinking I think you got a lot of talk here.
We do. And so what we're hearing, the definition that Councillor Janine just specified is really good in the use of terms of politicians. But what we're taking from this is maybe the word town hall is not appropriate. So we can come back with maybe some better wording for that.
Yeah.
Or better clarification of what that means.
Yeah.
But to the CAO's point, it's always going to be used interchangeably with other groups, so.
No doubt. No doubt. It's like saying the word regular gas when it's actually unleaded. Okay. All right, moving on.
All right, so we're moving on to general provisions. So many of the components of the procedure bylaw 12-19 have remained under general provisions. This section has been reformatted more effectively to provide headings for these provisions. So such as including suspension of rules, Robert's Rules of Order, electronic participation, record of proceedings, meeting attendance, and minutes. Some new updates. So under rules of procedure, it is identified that each member has the right to an efficient and effective meeting and to be treated with courtesy and respect. Next slide, please. So we did have some council feedback. So Mayor Measures, he's made a suggestion under section 2.4, electronic participation, to clarify under this area that public participation is included during regular council meetings and some special meetings. Public participation in these meetings will not be by electronic attendance. Members of the public can attend meetings in person or provide written submissions following the procedure. So our comment from the clerk's department is that this is a good addition to that section to provide clarity on participation and to follow what we are currently doing in practice. I'll leave it to the chair.
Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the first line, it defines that each member has a right to an efficient meeting. And so I think we may want to expand that determination of efficient meeting. And everybody's aware right now, there's a lot of legislation going around the province and even across Canada on how staff and how councils and have to treat each other.
Yes.
Because it works both ways, the way it works always. And don't be surprised within the next term, we will be seeing, or the not too distant future, we will see legislation that will change the way we will be included in the way we do our business. So.
Yes. Marty.
I like that term efficient meeting. Because minutes are kept, but hours can be wasted, so I like it when they're efficient would mean staying on topic and not going off topic and stuff, so I like that word.
And I don't disagree with Mary. We all want that. I guess the concern, there's a lot of stuff going on. And if all of a sudden, somebody doesn't have the right to speak, because we want to get going for being efficient, we only get allowed to speak once, for example.
Yeah.
We have a good council that works well together, but there's a lot of councils that don't.
So what if we added the word efficient and effective meeting?
It's interesting because the text said efficient, but you added the word efficient as you said it. So, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Worship. You caught that. Yes. And I think that would be a good addition to include effective. And to the deputy mayor's point, adding that into the procedure bylaw is not to just have a quick meeting just for the sake of getting out of the council chambers. It's more so to what Marty had stated, was that we don't want people just prolonging debate just for the sake of prolonging debate or doing a filibuster to not move the business forward. It's more those safeguards for council to abide by.
Fair enough. And I think that's something we all have to face, is that the procedure bylaw does need to consider all eventualities. And we're very fortunate, I believe, that we have a very cooperative and understanding council. And so I don't think that, you're seeing any filibustering going on here. So that's good news. But that's not to say that it wouldn't happen in the future. As we pointed out, this bylaw is 12 years old, so that's at least four sessions of council. So thoughts? Nothing further? All right, thank you very much.
So does that
Yes,
make
go
you
ahead.
happy, Paul? If we added effective, because then that means you're covering relevant topics and.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
right now it's working well, no doubt, but it's in the future that we look at, and it's like we're dealing with electronic participation. We don't want people all of a sudden sitting in their pajamas, putting us, and involving us. Look what's happened. And we're getting a handle on like the request for written submissions. Do they form part of the, the formal discussion, or are they just received? There's a real, a real gray area with some of that stuff. So anyways, no, I'm good with that. Thank you.
I'm good with that too. Well done, team. Thank you very much. Sasha?
Perfect. Next slide, please. Thank you, Krista. So now we're under roles and responsibilities. So this is section 3 in the procedure bylaw. So this section highlights the key responsibilities of members and the different roles that they may have. So these responsibilities, majority of them derive from the Municipal Act under part guarding municipal organization and administration. The roles of council representatives appointed to committees and boards reflects the roles outlined specifically in the Hall Board terms of reference that council just approved this past year. Some new updates. So we've included some roles from key staff members, which are identified as the CAO and clerk, and the conduct of the public has been added as they have a role in open meetings. Next slide, please. So we did receive some feedback. So Councillor MacArthur was our first one. So under section 3.9, he's requested that we add that if a member of the public contravenes the conduct rules, the chair can ask for the removal from the meeting. So our commentary is that this addition definitely supports the power of the head of council under section 241(2) of the Municipal Act, which provides the authority to expel any person for improper conduct at a meeting. So we can definitely add it if it's council's wish to do so.
Go ahead, Robert.
No, I think it clearly just speaks for itself. It's just, we're gonna do it anyway, so let's have it in writing.
Again, for any eventuality, that's what we need to be. Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, do you have any comment on this beyond what you've written?
Thank you, Worship. I think definitely this has been a concern for other municipalities. Otherwise, it wouldn't be written right in the Municipal Act. We've been very fortunate here at Clearview Township that we haven't had many incidents, but I think it's good just to really state the rules right in our procedure bylaw because most people aren't reading the many pages of the Municipal Act. So I do think it's a good addition.
Again, just to get down to the specifics, it says provides the authority to expel any person for improper conduct, which I would suggest may apply to all members of council or members of staff even.
That's correct.
Okay. Again, any eventuality. Yes, go ahead, Paul.
Quick question, as the head of council to remove an individual or whoever from it, they also have the right to reinstate that person if an apology or that
Yeah.
person is deemed
I would
to
think
have
so. An appeal process of
or apology process.
apology, appeal or whatever.
Is
Sure.
that written in here as well?
Yeah, how would we deal with that?
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor Van Staveren, it's not clearly written in our procedure bylaw. I just know some past practices from other municipalities who've had to deal with council members being expelled from the meeting. Part of that procedure to come back is to issue an apology for what was stated during the meeting. I believe it's probably covered under Robert's Rules of Order, but it's definitely something we can look at if we want more of a procedure of how that person can reattend a meeting in the future.
CIO Ferguson first.
Yeah, so different situations can occur. So if a member of the public is making disparaging comments to a counselor or to a staff person or something, and it's a bit outrageous, then the mayor can ask them to apologize or leave. Then the choice is up to them. If they don't apologize, then they must leave. The same thing can occur that somebody could be so belligerent that it could be an immediate order, you must leave the chambers. So there are various levels of what could happen in the council chambers that could basically have the individual make a choice for themselves whether they stay or not, and then the others an outright dismissal.
Paul, go ahead.
Just further to that, CEO Ferguson, we had the situation this past year where an individual chose to be belligerent to the chair first, and then numerous months later, he tried to attend again. Well, he's offended the office of the chair. The problem is we don't have a definition to say if an apology, example, if an apology is received either verbally or in writing, we don't have the ability basically right now to keep him expelled from this chamber. And I think maybe we should think about adding a line to this that upon, these criteria, you can come back in until it is. you know,
Deputy Mayor, I interpret the situation that the disparaging comment was made to both the community, to this council, and to myself as the chair. And so the behavior in the case was very clear that it was not going to be resolved. And so that's why I asked for the person to leave. If the person wants to make a apology, then they're welcome back. But my thought is that our opportunity for public engagement / public participation period is clearly on our agendas. And that's where the individual can come forward. I would suggest to you that I am not, and nor would the ability of the mayor be to prohibit them from participating in a legally constituted public meeting about a planning act issue that's related to something that they would have concern about. Because, that's outside of the public participation engagement issue. So I don't consider the individual banned from being here. What I consider is the person banned from participating in public participation until such time as a sincere apology is delivered and received.
okay, so what you just said there, I would agree with. Can we put that in writing that if unless we receive this type of apology, that person cannot reattend public participation?
Yeah.
Could it not be a one-liner or something that says, like we use the example, if you're at away from a meeting and I'm there and I know what's happened, he didn't insult me, but he did disrespect the chair.
Well, again, he insulted the community, he insulted this council, and he disparaged myself as the
Right.
chair, so.
I just would like to have a one-liner in there that says upon his apology to the chair or written apology to the council and chair,
Yeah.
just a comment.
John, would you be able to comment on that? I mean, I know you've had a little bit of experience in this, both in your professional world as well as when you were a counselor. So what's your thought on this?
Yeah, it's a great discussion and through you, your worship, typically if somebody made a disparaging comment at the meeting and they were asked to apologize and they didn't apologize, they'd be put out of that meeting, but they can come to the next meeting.
Correct.
Right? It's a reset process.
Mhm.
So it's not permanently out. If somebody has been pretty belligerent at a meeting and is blasting everybody, you could say, look, until you apologize, you can't come to another meeting. I'm not sure how much teeth we'd have in that. But at the end of the day, typically it's just for the meeting that they were in.
Okay, well, I mean, that's acceptable. It's a challenge I have is that, this was pretty egregious comments that were being made. And again, it's not just me as the mayor and chair of this meeting. I believe this insult went to everyone, if not the entire community and staff and everybody else. And so I think that, we don't need that type of behavior in our chambers. And so I'm simply asking for an apology, and it's not happened. So it's not happened.
So just to add to it, let's say a fight broke out. Then the municipality then has the ability through administratively to issue a no trespassing notice.
Yes.
So it depends on how severe something is.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody gets upset at a meeting and they act badly and they don't apologize, but they can still come to the next meeting.
Mhm.
But if it gets serious, it would rise to the level of considering a no trespassing.
I get what you're saying. And fortunately, that's not where we are. I'm, just thinking as the chair and as someone who has served our community in a long time, I've developed some thick skin when it comes to these type of insults. And so I'm comfortable dealing with it. But I also think that I have a responsibility to protect both the integrity of the council as well as the integrity of our community from the comments that were made. So, it's neither here nor there for me on a personal note. So that's where I stand on this. I know Paul wants to say a lot, but Paul, I got other people here too.
Go ahead.
Give us a minute here. Robert first, then Phyllis. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I was gonna say, John, in your past, what about repeat offenders? I mean, I can see a one-off, expelling them and allowing them back. But what happens if you get one that is a repeat, constant badgering at council every time they're in the chambers? So to me, I guess it depends on the individual and depends on the number of times what we do as far as allowing them back in or not. So I'm wondering is, do we need to put something like that in writing so that, repeat, I don't know, just throwing this out for conversation at this point because it has happened. And I think we need to deal with that part of it as well.
Yeah, thank you, through you, your worship. No, it's a great question. And the old adage is how many second chances will you want to give? And to a certain extent, if somebody is always being a problem at every meeting, then you would have the right to keep them out of the meeting. It would be a reasonable step because they've demonstrated it several times.
Thank you. Phyllis?
Through you.
I hope you guys are comfortable with this type of meeting being all first names, let's go with that.
That's fine. I just said it's going to happen over and over and over again, every meeting. And that's what Robert addressed. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, back to you. Oh, Marty, you up there too? Okay.
So what you're saying is we should have put a trap door in there when we redid the council.
Yeah. When we did the renovation on the facility, we missed that one. I'll have to talk to the architect. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Paul, go ahead.
I can agree with the idea of the automatic reset if we have a situation in nature that's sort of small-minded. We've had people walk out and make comments like, oh, I'm not going to listen to this anymore, whatever, you're gone, don't come back in. But I think we should have something where a person has been belligerent to an individual or a counselor or whatever, to say, in your situation, until you apologize, you will not be allowed into public participation. I just feel that there's going to be a repeat, like the comment made, we're going to get into repeat offenders. Oh, I can come back next meeting and speak. Well, no, we don't want that. You're going to be, so you have your next explosion. I think we can ask for, and we can give it two ways, either a written apology or you stand in front of council to apologize, one or the other.
Okay, thank you. Robert?
Yeah, so I'm just wanting to move the meeting along. I'm almost thinking we need to maybe draft up section 39A and have, it's going to take 3 or 4 lines or a whole nother section to state what we want as far as policy for returning.
I think it should simply be a category called appeals.
Yeah.
The decision, sorry to say, but the decision of the mayor during a session is the decision of the mayor, right? And so it can really only be challenged by other members of council. That's really how it works. And that's a Robert's Rules of Order point too. But if you put in the appeals opportunities and just use simple language, it says that, they can consult with the CAO and the clerk and they can consider the decision of the mayor to either resolve it or whatever. So John, you thought?
Perhaps this is something that we could have a policy around, and we could simply refer to the policy in the event that it occurs in the procedure bylaw.
Yeah, we have a policy about the behavior of the public, actually, do we not, Madam Clerk?
Unreasonable customer behavior. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing is that the clerk's department has to do some more research because we can't be the only municipality who's experienced this. So
I'm sorry to say, but it's true.
and if it's warranted, we may have to get a legal opinion because restricting someone's access to a meeting is a very serious thing. We are not restricting access to a meeting, just restricting access to public participation. But I think it's good to do some more research and get some further information from legal regarding that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Robert, for your wise words there. Council, let's move on.
So still on roles and responsibilities. So Mayor Measures has provided some feedback. So under section 3.1, role of the mayor, he would like to add that they will approve the publication of the council agenda to the township website, review agenda items for the proposed agenda with the clerk and CAO, and that the mayor has authority to cancel a council meeting in consultation with the clerk in an emergency situation. So the clerk's commentary on that is that the publication and preparation of the council agenda is an administrative function, and it should not be included under the role of mayor specifically. In regard to the agenda review, a practice has been established where the clerk and CAO review the regular council agendas, so the mayor and the chair is prepared for the upcoming meeting procedurally. The meeting is not intended for changes to be made to any items on the agenda or staff reports or recommendations. And cancellation of council meetings is covered under section 4.13 and wouldn't need to be included under these roles and responsibilities. So just to give you kind of a purview, the agenda as administrative function is covered under section 227 and 228 of the Municipal Act. Not explicitly, but it speaks to a municipal administration and to the role of the clerk and the CAO. Specifically, section 227A states it's the role of the officers and employees of the municipality to implement council's decisions and establish administrative practices and procedures to carry out council's decisions. The agenda is the tool in which council is presented with recommendations to make decisions, with the preparation of the agenda being an administrative practice. I think it's also important at this time to outline our agenda process as it starts a couple weeks out from the actual regular council meeting. It begins with staff adding their agenda items to the agenda organizer spreadsheet. This provides the clerk's department and the senior management team with an overview of which reports are coming forward and the approximate duration of the council meeting. So that plays into respect to efficient and effective meetings. If it appears that there are larger agenda items all on one meeting, any reports that can be moved to the next meeting will be suggested to the report author. This helps support the efficient and effective meetings. 1 week prior to the council meeting, all reports and items are required to be provided to the clerk's department for inclusion on the agenda. The clerk's department assists with report recommendations and bylaws that come forward. A draft agenda is compiled on Monday and sent out to the senior management team for agenda review on Tuesday morning. This provides the opportunity for directors and the CAO to discuss the reports coming forward. From this meeting, any adjustments are made to finalize these reports. The clerk's department and CAO will then meet with the mayor Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning, depending on the schedule, to review the agenda to prepare for the upcoming meeting. The agenda is then posted Wednesday afternoon on the township's website and circulated to council and applicable staff members. I'll move it over to the chair.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Council, I brought this recommendation forward. First of all, to formalize the ideals that we have an agenda review policy that, as she outlined very well, that we do meet and we discuss the procedures and or the content of the meeting. Usually what the points that I'm interested to see as the mayor is I'm interested to see the public delegation who have made requests to be part of, make a delegation to our council. Some of those delegations don't go through the mayor's office, so I'm not even aware that they're happening until I see the agenda. And yet the clerk's department have this information weeks in advance sometimes, and is not shared with the mayor to even know that we're having a delegation on this date scheduled. Now, it's not that I'm not trying to accuse or anything like that. I just want to point out that, sometimes from the mayor's desk, you want to know that you have a good understanding of what's going on over the next few weeks as to where our council is going. And so we can set our own agendas and we can, as council, can do those things and decide at this meeting when to bring up this topic. But the staff are doing that right now. And, it's been very frustrating to me. I can speak as a member of council, when I sat as a councillor here, how frustrating it was to receive the agenda package. And it would be at that time quite thick, and you'd have to literally spend your whole weekend reading all this material over. And then you had only a couple of hours on Monday to contact any staff members to get any information back to you about any questions you might have prior to the meeting. So it was a real challenge to, do your family duty, do your community duty, do your council duty, as well as read all this material to be prepared to deliver effective governance at the council meeting. So I've always had a concern about not having a good understanding about what is on the future agendas. And that's just, I guess, from my time as a councillor and now my time as the mayor. Having the agenda reviews, which are, scheduled around our times available. Sometimes we've done them over the phone. Sometimes we've done them in person. Sometimes I've actually been able to sit right in with the senior manager meeting and actually participate in the agenda review during the senior management meeting. So I think it's an excellent point. The tool that I suggested in here was that the mayor approve the publication of the agenda because it is outlined in the municipal act that the mayor does communicate on behalf of the corporation. And so delivering communications to the public like this, which are specifically about the council, and the head of council is delivering information to the public through the website. I think that it needs to be approved by the mayor's office to deliver it on the website. And I think that that's the part that needs to be understood, that I think that that's where the mayor's office today and in the future should be going, because we need to respect the fact that we're the people who are making responsible decisions on behalf and for the citizenry. And so we would hope that the administrative side of our house understands that we're trying to do our job, and we can't do our job because you're doing it for us, but not sharing with us all the information that is, scheduled long-term. So that's where this all comes from. I can appreciate your commentary there, Madam Clerk. Respectfully disagree, because I think that again, the mayor's office should have some type of ability to affirm to the public that they have reviewed an agenda and it is going out to the public for their consumption. That's my thought. Members of council, any thoughts? Paul, go ahead.
Thank you. A couple things to pull from it. I don't disagree that the preparation of the agenda is an administrative function. It says in your comments that that the agenda review is done by the clerk and CAO, and is that correct? You, John, yourself and Sasha review it? Okay. I do think it's, whether we make it a mandatory or make it I think it's important that somebody from council does review it from a council point of view, from an administration. Whether we make it into a bylaw that says they must, or it's written into encouraged to review it with the mayor as well. But I do I do believe it's an administrative function to prepare it at the best of their abilities. But at some point in time, council should be either through the CAO or whoever it gets directed for a council. Because we all know there's certain things that we find out as councillors that we don't always report back, and they find stuff out that they don't report to us. So there should be some connection, but I'm not sure what it is. But I don't want to take away the administrative function that's right now given to the clerk and the CAO for review.
I hear you. John?
Thank you, Worship. This has come up in other municipalities, and the best way to describe it is that I can certainly understand the mayor's office wanting to know what's on the agenda, getting a heads up and all that. But the mechanical function of the agenda is not to have any political interference or perceived political interference. That's why it's basically a mechanical statutory responsibility of her office. I can't even stop it. So it's really about the public's right, if they put something on the agenda, that it gets put into the agenda package, as long as it meets the other test of not being defamatory and something of that. It's a mechanical step. It's not meant to be any way by any member of council or even myself to stop. So that's sort of the rationale behind it. But the mayor's point is that, well, how do you juggle that against, I want to know about it so I can at least be aware? So it's balancing it. I think we have to do a better job of making the mayor aware, but the mayor can't stop it. I guess that's how it works. And that's what it's meant to work that way.
By the way, it does work that way. I'm confident in saying I've never demanded something be removed from the agenda. Never. That's not what I've done, and I don't think any mayor would. But the point is that having an understanding on where we're going, not just every week, we should have an understanding about what reports the recreation department are bringing forward at the end of October, and what reports the public works department are bringing forward, and the purchase of that, how we're doing on the purchase of that new truck or whatever. Like, we should know where we are as a council, even just by looking at a calendar, where things are. You know something? We've got a terrific dashboard on our strategic plan. And it is really useful. And I know the staff are using it because I take a look at it. But we don't have a dashboard for council. We don't know when items are going to be showing up on our agenda over the next few months. We don't know. It just pops up. So that's kind of how I feel about this role. And so the ask for the publication is that the agenda review meeting must take place. As simple as a text message from the clerk saying, did you read it over? And I'll say, yes, I did. And away it goes. That's as simple as it could be. Or it can be a genuine formal meeting where we meet in the mayor's office and we discuss the, what's going to happen, you know, or what the procedure is going to be. So that's kind of how I look at it. Thank you, John, for your commentary. Paul, again, anybody else? And
Thank you.
Robert.
John, just ask if some of the comments the mayor just brought up there, if we, for instance, haven't heard anything on the purchase of a fire truck, or we want to, whatever we're doing, can the mayor ask that be added to the agenda, or does he have the ability, Sasha, to add that to the agenda, or is it cut in stone once the agenda is laid?
Sasha, that'd be for you.
Are you meaning when agenda's already printed or asking for a notice of motion for a report to come forward? Because the mayor and the CEO have a special relationship in where they work together and the CEO keeps the mayor updated on the administration. So it would be very common for Mayor Measures to ask CEO Ferguson, oh, can we have an update on that? I haven't heard anything since it was last at council. And I think the regular dialogue occurs, and that's the nice part about the special relationship between the mayor as elected official and the CEO as the head of the administration. And that's really what John's responsibility is to council, is ensure that reports that are coming forward align with your strategic goals that you have set, the higher goals. So that's why on every report to council, we relate it to, well, what strategic goal does this relate to? So that council knows that we're working in the direction that you've given us.
Should we have something then, Sasha, in what you said, I'll use throw that fire truck idea at you. So we as a council are very interested in, when's our new fire truck coming? When's our procurement on this coming or whatever? Should we have a section in our agenda that says, ask the CAO questions in terms of, you know, because if the mayor doesn't go forward as our representative to ask about it, should we at a council meeting say, hey, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? Because a lot of times we don't know it. So
Can I jump in? Absolutely. You can ask at a council meeting, but you can also ask anytime. Like that's the role of the mayor, is to hear from members of council, for sure. So if you have questions and you're not sure what's going on, because I do have well, not me, but the mayor's office has a direct connection to the CAO's office. For sure. We have communications every day, sometimes on the weekend. You can ask me, or you can, because you are all part of council. You can reach out directly to the CAO anytime.
sometimes it's nice to be told as a group that the fire truck's expected on such and such a day. Or
Yeah.
for instance, we were just talking with Terry, when's the toilets coming or the bathrooms coming?
Yeah, the bathroom.
It sort of
yeah.
becomes a common information. So I don't want to get away from the topic of, it's all about communication and how do we
Yeah.
communicate that to our.
Mr. CAO, would it be something that you could add to discussions with the senior managers about their presentations at council? That they could bring updates on sort of immediate projects that are underway?
Yeah, we could certainly add something there. If we know that something's coming and it's a month away or 2 months away, give a heads up that this will be coming. We could certainly talk about it. Sometimes all of us are working on various things at various different days. It may not trigger in our mind to remember to advise council. So it's not like we don't want to, it's just sometimes we're playing catch up.
Oh, for sure, everybody does.
But,
Yeah.
To your point, there's issues that come up that are important to council. And frankly, at any council meeting, you can bring up any matter on any subject and ask a question. Sometimes we may be able to answer it. If not, we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Sometimes if it's answered at the start of the meeting, we may have the answer by the end of the meeting.
Yep,
So
that's true.
it can work out like that. I may not know the answer to your question that you're asking at the time, but I'll certainly try to find out.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go over to Robert Walker and then we got Marty after that.
Thank you, Worship. 2 or 3 things. First of all, the agendas, you look at them on a Tuesday,
Generally,
or a Wednesday, so. to
generally
me,
use Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday
would
morning.
that not be the approval that you're happy with the agenda then at that point in time? So that kind of deals with that. As far as and I appreciate the getting it on Wednesday compared to our, as our worship mentioned, trying to struggle with that package on a Friday.
It used to be.
Through the weekend, and it was about 100 and some pages thick. It's nice to have it on a Wednesday, being able to look at it and being able to contact staff Thursday, Friday, and even Monday to find out to clarify some things. So that works fine. As far as what's coming in the future, to me, when we had our discussions and our workshops on communications, we talked about departments putting out a newsletter to council with regards to updates and forthcoming projects. So I think that could come from that end of it, because we talked about that in that workshop. And so it hasn't happened, but I know everybody's busy, but to me, that's where the information to keep council in the updated loop would come from, would be each department. Like you've got recreation, you've got planning, you've got bylaw, you've got BAS in the construction industry part of it. All those could come up with a monthly or bi-monthly update for council so that we know what's coming, and if they have any future policies or bylaws or anything coming forward at a council meeting. To me, that's the avenue that should take place, not on an agenda.
Thank you so much, Robert. John, I believe that might have been covered in the meetings when I was away, doing my cancer treatments. So thank you for bringing that up, Robert. Yes.
So just recently, we did reinstate that, and it's quarterly. So every 3 months. So
Yeah.
Drew is working on different things of different departments, and only one has gone out this council's term.
Yeah.
And it was only just a couple of months ago, but those ones will continue.
Yeah, good. Marty's next, and back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm almost always amazed that we have an agenda that
Then
sort of
Phyllis. Sorry.
is over in time, doesn't last too long, and everything's sort of spread out through the year. But we must have some information through the year that you could post, like every October and March, we do a report from the building department, for example, on how many bills we've done. You get a water report every so often. I mean, you could probably make a yearly calendar on what to expect every month or whatever, just making it a little further than
Correct.
Mr. Walker said. So,
Absolutely correct, but we do not have that available to counselors.
so we could.
It
Yeah.
is in the role of the senior managers.
And I'm
because they
starting
know
to
that.
realize that now. We should be seeing this report or from the fire department, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So we should be able to see, to almost make a yearly calendar and say, here's what you should expect in October as far as agenda items and stuff. Or November, December, exactly.
100%. You know,
Like when we do the awards or whatever, the what do you call it? The like the sports awards and all that,
Yeah.
that would be in June and stuff like that. So maybe we can make some kind of a calendar up or something.
mhm. Sasha, is that something you think you and your team could do?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Beelan. It's a great idea, and it makes sense for those returning reports that you see. So building does monthly reports. It's usually quarterly. Committee adjustment does monthly reports. Usually we'll see a bylaw report come annually, which we can definitely put on a calendar. It's those other reports, I think, is what you're kind of talking about, where we really don't know when we're going to start the process, which is what I think the strategic plan dashboard is really kind of hoping to do, to give council and the public updates on where we're at with the bigger projects that you want to see moving forward. For example, this procedure bylaw, if I did a calendar at the beginning of the year, I don't know if I would really be able to tell you exactly where I would be standing on things. We knew it was an item we wanted to move forward. But short-term rentals, that's something we want to talk to council
right.
about. We've put it in the dashboard because it is on our list, and we will update it as to where we're at in the process and when council can expect something to be coming forward for some discussion. So I think communication is a definite theme here, and maybe using our strategic planning dashboard and maybe some other communication methods to better inform council of what's coming down the pipe, so to speak.
Thank you. Appreciate you understanding that. Paul, you're up next for a brief, and then Phyllis. Phyllis going to go first? Phyllis goes first.
I had one already.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not sure if it was this term or last term, we sat down in the middle of the council chamber here at a table. And we talked about getting updates on a quarterly basis, as John mentioned, from the managers as to what their intentions are. They're budgeting once a year for things. So we know, they have an idea of what they're budgeting for. If we even had a bit of an outline from them after the budget's approved, maybe what they feel they have money for and what they timelines for things. Dan was great. He gave us the outline for a couple of years where the gravel was going to go and when it was going to be
Yeah,
done.
that's true.
He's been really great at telling us, you know, the bushing's going to be done at this
Yeah.
point, or ditching can only be done at a certain time of year because we only have, well, back then, we rented our ditching machine. So if we had the managers just do a little bit of outline with a little bit of timing, and we've asked for this quite a bit, and quarterly would be fine because that's what they're doing. They're budgeting as they go and putting their money where it needs to be. And it would just be nice to know if there's something coming up. It really would be.
100%.
Thanks.
Comfortable with that, John?
Yeah, so as a part of the dashboard, it started late this past spring, so I think we're in our 4th month now from after the director's getting training on how to populate it and use it. It's going to generate a quarterly report. We haven't given that to you yet, but one's coming. And so that report will talk about the various projects. And then from a finance perspective, I think council's asked for quarterly reports financially as well, so that financially we give an update where we are at a certain point in time. We basically, how typically financial reports are conveyed quarterly are we on target? Are we over, are we tracking over budget at this time or under budget, stuff like that? And ultimately, that's good information for all of us to hear. And that can be a part of a quarterly financial report as well. And so we do want to do both of those. And
Phyllis?
we are doing the one for sure on the dashboard, that's going to be populated and shared. And the quarterly reports, I'm leaving that with the finance department because I think Kelly gets ready for that in any event.
Mhm. Phyllis again?
No, I remember doing, I think it was Counselor Walker coming and asking one of our managers, do you have money to continue with what you need to do this year? And the answer was no. So we went ahead and we approved more money for something. So just little things like that, a little heads up so we can put our input forward instead of immediately when we hear there's a problem as well. It'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you. Paul, do you want to wrap this up?
I just
Oh,
want,
hang on, Robert's in there too. He's right beside you.
I'll start this one. John, I guess my original ask is different than what we're pushing towards now with the dashboard. I would love to see, I won't say every council meeting, but pretty much every council meeting, that you come in with just an update on a couple of those snippets to say, hey, you guys can look forward to seeing this in the community. You can look forward to seeing the toilets. You can look forward to seeing this. That is so, like we do our ward reports. I would love to see a little CAA report. He's here anyways, just, and you can pull it out of your senior managers, you know, what they would like to talk about, but just a few minutes, just
Yeah.
gives us a warm and fuzzy feeling. And then we follow that up ourselves with the dashboard. You know, I think that's important but just something to think about. We add it in on our agenda, you know, just an idea.
Yeah,
John?
I've done that before, actually, and asked a comment during that roundtable discussion when we do the comments, and I bring up a couple of things that are going on and what's coming ahead. So as long as I'm aware of that, I usually speak to it. So if you want me to do that, I can do that.
Ward report's going to be talked about in a minute, right? Thank you. Robert?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question of our clerk. If this whole thing of the mayor and the agenda setting, is it spelled out in the municipal act anyway, or would this contravene the municipal act in any way?
Through your worship to Councillor MacArthur, do you mean in regards to approving the agenda before it is published or having our agenda review meeting?
Yeah, just the procedure which the mayor's proposed in his comments here. Like,
So-
is that not spelled out in the municipal act fairly plain or no?
it's not fairly like specific, but it is the interpretation of the municipal act that it is an administration function. However, the mayor brought up a good point about the practice of reviewing the agenda with the mayor that wasn't done previous councils. And it is beneficial and valuable. And we've been very lucky that we have a mayor who takes that review meeting seriously and asks questions, which is great. However, we're trying to create a procedure bylaw that is for future. So I agree with putting that practice in, but not making it mandatory, because we have had mayors in the past who've had full-time jobs and maybe weren't being able to have those review meetings with us. So I think it's a good addition, but I would caution making it mandatory because it may not work for everybody who would hold this position in the future.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you very much, Robert. Not going to contravene the municipal act in any way, believe me. Thank you. We got all that banged around enough? Okay, thank you very much. So the mayor can set the agenda and here we go. Good. Yeah, all right. No, I'm just teasing. Thank you very much for your consultation on this and your consideration of it, because I appreciate your comment. I do take it seriously. The agenda is very important because it moves this municipality forward. So that's where I sit and that's how I operate. So thank you. Carry on.
All right, council meetings, woo, section 4.
No kidding. What's that?
So an overview. So this section outlines the different types of council meetings. So regular, special, priority, workshops, and the inaugural. It also outlines participation in electronic meetings, which as an addition made during the COVID pandemic remains in the new version. Other key topics it covers is how a council meeting can be canceled, what constitutes a quorum, when a meeting is called to order, and what the public record and disclaimer about views being expressed. So some new updates. So reference to length of council meetings has been removed. So if anybody remembers, we couldn't go past 9:30 without a resolution. So we've removed that because that was just an administrative or procedural function that didn't need to be included in there. The term emergency council meeting has been replaced with priority, which I think the mayor is going to be happy about. And then provisions for the recording of meetings has been included. Next slide, please. So the mayor has provided some feedback. So under section 4.7 for electronic meetings, he'd like to add that when a member is participating electronically, they shall notify the clerk and the chair/mayor. So we believe at the clerk's department, this is a great addition so that everyone is aware of how each council member is attending a meeting. Because as the procedural chair, it's good to know if you have to make sure that you're watching the screen for cards going up for voting. So we think that's a great addition. The clerk is included in there because we just need to know if we have to provide a meeting link to participate electronically. So I'll pass it over
Members
to
of
you.
council, any questions? I think the idea there is pretty clear that if you're going to participate electronically, you need to advise the mayor and advise the clerk. You can send a simple email or you can just phone us, whatever you need to do to advise that you want to participate electronically that night. And that's excellent. Go ahead, Marty.
Thank you, Your Worship. So do staff members have to notify the chair and mayor as well, or?
Currently, I haven't asked for that, but I want you to know I often press the CAO that I'm very much prefer that our senior managers who are here with reports attend the meeting in person. But that's up to him as the director responsible for all of our staff. So that's just my preference. John can make them deal with that. Okay.
The reason I ask is sometimes it's just not good. It echoes or whatever. It's harder to understand people.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's nice to know ahead of time, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Thank you very much. Nothing further? Oh,
I think this is pretty much happening anyway, right? So
it is pretty much happening.
Yeah.
But to put it in the procedures is clear so that you know, if you're going to miss your meeting or if you plan to participate electronically, that you let the mayor's office know and let the clerk's office know so that both chairs here administratively and, you know, procedurally, we need to move together and understand we have somebody up on the screen. So courtesy stuff. Thank you very much. Move ahead.
Perfect. All right, so the next one, so it's mayor measures. So he's
Oh, gee, I had a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
the truth is
Yeah.
Paul Van Staveren helped very much. He was having a hard time with his hand when we were writing this. So thank you. It came underneath my email, but Paul did chip in. Yeah, there it is.
So the mayor and deputy mayor have asked for clarification under section 4.7, electronic participation, as it relates to when quorum is lost. So for example, a meeting can begin with quorum and members can step away, but as long as quorum is still present, the meeting can continue. So this section can definitely be clarified to outline the above and can be reiterated under the quorum section as well.
So my clarity on that is electronically, sometimes people just drop out. Their internet fails and you're not part of the meeting anymore. But, you know, we're not going to sit here and wait. If we have quorum, we can continue the meeting. Fair enough? So by choosing to make yourself available for the meeting electronically, you also have that you have to accept that we're not going to hold the meeting if we have quorum to continue the meeting. Does that make sense? Marty's concerned. Go ahead, Marty.
So your quorum consists of one person that's online, and then if you lose them, then you don't have quorum anymore, but you said you can still go
No,
on. with
there's
the meeting.
something.
You just can't vote on it then.
So help me out here, clerk, but let me interpret it from the guy who's the chair. When the meeting starts, you have to have quorum to start the meeting. If the quorum to make that quorum included the person online and they dropped out, because the meeting started, you can still continue the meeting. Does that
Can you
make
vote
sense,
on
Madam
things
Clerk?
still, or even without that person then? Because let's say we only have 4, right? And you lose that when you have 3. Can you vote on things, or can you just progress with the meeting until you have to vote on something?
This is great discussion. So say, Councillor Beelin, you were virtual for this meeting and everybody else was sitting here. If you dropped off and we still had 6 members here, we could continue the meeting because it's quorum. To your point, if you were the 4th person and we only had 3 people sitting here and you dropped out, we would have to recess. And I think the procedure is half an hour to see if you
Half
can
an hour.
restate to gain quorum again.
That makes sense? Okay.
All right, moving forward.
Quorum's fun. It's a great word. Mr. Broderick, go ahead.
So if I understand this correct, if we had a meeting with where only 4 members could attend and one person walked out, the meeting's done.
That is correct. So if you walk out, then we have to wait till we are able to have 4 members to constitute a meeting. That's correct.
Yeah, I thought so. Just wanted to clarify.
However, I should specify, if you've recused yourself because you've stated a declaration of
That's it.
pecuniary interest, then the quorum is the number of people who are able to vote. So for example, if you recused yourself and there was only 4 members and you left because you've declared an interest, that quorum is based on 3, not 4, because you can't vote on that. You're not a voting member.
But you're part of quorum,
Yeah.
but you're not a voting member.
Right. So that's completely independent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This is fun stuff. Any other questions? We're good? Carry on.
Okay. So, under section 4.7, mayor measures and the deputy mayor under electronic participation has requested that the following sentence be removed. Any delegations or public participation during a state of emergency will only be accepted in writing unless deemed otherwise by the mayor and clerk. This provision was included in the procedure bylaw by amendment during the COVID pandemic. So this section does allow the ability for the mayor and clerk to change this practice dependent on the state of emergency. The way it is written provides flexibility, but can also be removed. So it's not statutory that it has to be included in our procedure bylaw. There was a need to include it in the procedures during the state of emergency as it related to the COVID pandemic. We did receive comments about how the township was permitting public participation in delegations during this time. It is beneficial to have it written in the procedures so there is an expectation on how the township will engage the public during an emergency. However, that's not to say that the mayor and clerk can't decide that another form of public participation works better during the emergency. There is flexibility to respond to the specific situation and make the best decisions based on that.
Any questions? All right. Thank you. Carry on.
Still on council meetings. All right. So under section 4.1, recording of meetings, Add that all recordings, video and audio remain the property of the township. So this is a good point to make. So currently the township live streams and records its meetings through YouTube. Under YouTube's terms of service, the township retains the ownership rights to its content. However, certain rights are granted to YouTube, which are worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free, sub-licensable, and transferable license to use that content. I did not create that wording. That came right from YouTube's users. And this includes reproducing, distributing, preparing a derivative works, display, and performance of it. So we can add that these recordings do remain the property of the township within the procedure bylaw. However, by using YouTube, we do grant some rights to them as a provider. In the future, if the township does begin to use agenda and meeting management software, there is the ability to record and live stream through the software rather than YouTube. The clerk's department is looking into agenda management software, and costs to be included in the proposed budget for council's consideration.
Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you. Carry on.
All right, so we're moving to section 4.12. So mayor measures and the deputy mayor under public record include the recording on YouTube can be removed after 7 years. So the retention of records is actually addressed under the township's records retention bylaw and outline the best retention period for council meetings and recordings. So just to give you some context, municipalities have chosen different retentions as little as 6 months and others up to 12 years. There is no legislative standard as the minutes are the official record. So our suggestion is not included in the procedure bylaw, but we have made note that we need to add this to our records retention bylaw. Our records management coordinator, who's actually here at the meeting, has been working over the last few months on a new records retention bylaw. And this is a common question that we get from our records retention group is recordings of meetings. So we will present that in the new records retention bylaw and hopefully really find a retention period that council's amenable to. But it's good to bring up this point. So it's not in perpetuity because as we said, the minutes are the record, the official record.
Absolutely. That's the clarity part too, that, you know, as much as technology moves ahead, the Ontario government and the Municipal Act have indicated that the written record as signed by the clerk and the mayor are the record of the meeting, not anything else. So, does that make sense? Okay, carry on.
All right, so under section 4.13, cancellation of a council meeting, requested that the mayor can cancel a council meeting if it's deemed that the meeting has no content, agenda items that moves the business of the municipality forward. So it's important to have strict parameters around cancellation of a meeting, which is why procedure bylaws usually state that it's related to an emergency or an extreme weather event. And we've experienced that here at Clearview. Cancellation of a meeting based on the content of the agenda just runs the risk of being perceived as a subjective determination of which we don't want our members to be subjected to from the public. In my time at Clearview, I've not had an agenda where there hasn't been any items or reports on it. We've had ones that there's been few items. We actively work with the senior management team to plan out our future agendas, like we talked at length just previously about, so that reports can be spread out between meetings as much as they can to ensure consistency in meeting durations. We find that we have sometimes a smaller agenda when we have back-to-back meetings, and you'll see with your council meeting schedule that usually happens once a year when we're trying to accommodate a conference. Usually near May and June, we'll have back-to-back meetings over a 2-week period. So that's our commentary from the clerk's department. I'll hand it over to the chair.
Sure. My only comment for putting this forward really is the fact that there could be simply items that are on the agenda that make up basically routine receiving of information that we could move to another agenda. I mean, the staff are very efficient and they will bring forward that information. We set the schedule for when our meetings are and so on. But as was pointed out, there could be some meetings that are record short length. This one is not one of them today, but you know, there are reasons that we could look at the agenda through the clerk and the mayor, say, all of this content could be moved to next week. There's nothing that moves the municipality forward. So go ahead.
I just want to commend the clerk in her office for the way our meetings have been going.
Sure.
Because We've sat through a lot of them where they had to go after 9:30. So 9 o'clock.
In the past.
9:30. Yeah, in the past. And
Yes.
you folks have really made it a lot more enjoyable. Thank you.
Good comment. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Your Worship. Madam Clerk, I don't disagree with the idea of canceling I'll call it a frivolous meeting. The only thing is, what would the timeline be, or should we add something that it must be canceled within 48 hours or something? In that if people had public participation that wanted to proceed with or be involved with it.
Well, that's why the agenda review is on Tuesday.
But I'm just saying.
We have nothing in the agenda. We would cancel it on Wednesday morning and say it's not happening on Monday.
Okay, I don't want to see this at a last minute cancellation.
No, a last minute would only happen underneath the terms of an emergency, weather related, those type of things.
Right.
But I'm suggesting that content of the agenda.
So we don't want to
If the
put anything
content
in.
is frankly items that can be moved to another time
Right.
that are not holding up the municipality.
Okay, I don't have a problem with it. I just don't want to see a meeting canceled at the last minute because it was decided that there's nothing there for content, and
Yeah.
then we have people who want to come for public participation, so.
100%.
So-
And public participation, as we talked about earlier, if they can't make it, they can always enter electronic and we get that message anyway.
Okay,
So I mean, that's one way to do it. Sasha, just to back to your comments, you're saying that we don't want to, interfere with the procedure. It may be subjective. I think the subjectivity of it all is that if the content does not move the business of the corporation forward, that's why we have reports. That's why we have to pass bylaws, all of those things. But if we have a meeting that the content as presented at the agenda review meeting has very little content that actually moves the municipality forward, we can move that to another meeting. Receiving a report, about the color of stop signs is not something that's important today. It can be talked about tomorrow, right? So that's where I brought this forward. That's what I'm thinking. The subjectivity of it is always about moving the business of the corporation forward. Did you have something, Mr. Broderick?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question, really. Has that ever happened?
No, but I'm looking at eventualities, and we have had some meetings where I'm thinking this content could easily have been moved to another time, and it would have been a really short meeting instead of. Anyway, I've asked those questions at the agenda review meeting. Why is this on the agenda today? Shouldn't it be on the agenda in 2 weeks? So anyway, I'm just putting it out there for eventualities. That's all. Yes, somebody else? Yes, go ahead.
I think we're obligated to be here.
Okay, we're obligated to be here. Council will be here at every meeting. Right, okay. Anybody else? Nothing else? All right, thank you. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. So on to closed session meetings, so section 5. So just an overview, this section is specific to the procedures for closed sessions, so also known as an in-camera meeting. Majority of the provisions are covered within the current procedure bylaw, but has been reformatted to have its own section in the new bylaw and to add in wording regarding the minutes of the meeting and any recordings. So some new updates. The addition of recording closed session meetings advises that it's at the direction of the clerk, and closed session meetings can be audio or video recorded. The recording of closed sessions is not currently in practice with the township. However, the rationale is to include this provision within the bylaw in case that practice changes, an amendment is required, and everyone understands the procedures in which entities have access to these recordings and how they would be stored to ensure confidentiality. And as you'll know, if you've read the presentation slides, we're going to go and delve into this a little bit deeper next. So. Councillor MacArthur did provide some feedback. So over the next 2 slides, we'll see some differing views on this topic to record closed session meetings. The feedback provided is valuable and important for council to discuss. With the interest in this topic, staff did reach out to the township's closed meeting investigator to receive some procedural guidance regarding the matter, and this guidance will be discussed in further slides. So Councillor MacArthur's feedback under section 5.5 was to change and state that all closed session meetings be recorded for investigation purposes. So the staff's commentary is that the proposed wording in the draft is that they may be audio or video recorded at the discretion of the clerk. If this change is to be made, then the clerk's department will need to work with IT on how to effectively record and maintain the integrity and confidentiality of the recording. So for example, an encrypted device and the cost, because it is costly to have those separate devices used. These recordings can be accessed by the township's integrity commissioner, closed meeting investigator, as well as the clerk or deputy clerk. And then parameters need to be established as to how long the recordings will be held for. I don't know if it's prudent to go to the next slide because Mayor Measures has a differing view on it. And I think it should all be discussed together and then the closed meeting investigators guidance on that. So if we want to go to the next slide. Mayor Measures had asked that under section 5.5 that council can vote not to record a closed session and specifically outline no recordings of human resources matters in a closed session. So recording of closed sessions, if chosen to do so, shall be standard regardless of the topic. This ensures that there's accountability and transparency in the process. The township's current closed meeting investigator has advised that at this time, they do not recommend to their clients that they establish the practice of recording closed sessions. If they do, all meetings should be audio and video recorded regardless of the topic. So this provision was added into the procedure bylaw to provide the ability to record closed sessions if it was required in the future. As outlined in the slide, Principals Integrity, who's also our integrity commissioner, recommends that we don't record closed session meetings. They provided a multitude of reasons, including that the recording of meetings contributes to an atmosphere in which the full and frank exchange of information can be inhibited. The needs and objectives of the municipality should be primary, not the desires of an investigator. It is the responsibility of the chair and the clerk to make sure that the closed session meeting is properly conducted and remains on topic. The presence of a recording does not diminish that responsibility. Recordings are notorious for not capturing all of the discussion. So they're not turned on or they're turned on when they shouldn't be. And the recording could result in missing information. Recordings are also notorious for emphasizing side comments. The utterance of one individual captured on a recording can leave a disproportionate impression about the nature of the closed meeting. The placement of microphones and real-world issues such as papers covering a microphone can unduly influence what can be learned from a recording. Audio-only recordings are particularly susceptible to this quality control and concern. And recording of meetings is very expensive and it can be costly for smaller municipalities. And then the failure of recording equipment should not prevent a meeting from happening. And they agree that if there are recordings, that all meetings should be recorded regardless of the topic. And I'll hand it over to the chair.
All right. First of all, I really appreciate your research you've done on this. It's appears to be very extensive. And reaching out to our closed meeting investigator is quite a wise move. Thank you for doing so. I think your recommendation is valid. I'll look to others. Mr. MacArthur, do you want to speak since you brought it up?
Yeah, my whole feedback was just to make it black and white, like,
Yep.
and not leave it up to the clerk alone to make the decision. It's my reason for bringing it up.
Yeah. I concur. Either we do or we don't, and it's not up to the clerk to decide the do or don't. I see your point. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? I see Paul's going for his card. Come on, he's been a real chipper in today. Go ahead, Paul.
Is there an option, and I'm gonna sort of side with Mr. MacArthur and the mayor. If we decide not to record the closed session on a regular basis for various reasons, would we still have the ability on an as need be situation to record it? Example, if we get information from a lawyer that says, I recommend verbally to do this, this, and this. Well, we're going to act on that. I don't want to ever have it come back that they say, hey, I didn't say that, or I didn't mean that. And so I would just like to know if I'm sort of pushing to not record them, but have the ability to record it if necessary. Can we do that?
Through your worship to Deputy Mayor Van Stavern, in keeping with the closed meeting investigators' advice, it's kind of an all or nothing approach. But in regards to the legal matter that you just spoke about, it would be staff's responsibility to get a formal legal opinion or something in writing from our legal team as a record that we could go back to. And I think that's the practice that we've been following, and we should continue to follow that practice, providing that guidance to council, and making sure that their decisions are made on sound advice.
Okay. Anybody else? Marty? Yes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we shouldn't record them. I mean, if the investigator is advised that we don't, then I don't think we should. And I think it takes away from talking openly and frankly, and we have to worry about, oh, this is being recorded and I'm gonna be on tape and things like that.
Okay. Thank you. And I support what you're saying. Just to go back, my comment was about HR issues. I think that that would be highly inappropriate to record a discussion of council in camera regard to an HR issue. That would be highly irregular. So that's why I brought the point forward that we should just not do that. But deferring to the comments that came from the Integrity Commissioner, I think that's pretty clear. Anybody else with any other comment? Okay, thank you. Let's move on.
Thank you, Worship. So I believe Councillor MacArthur did mention this just previously, but we're speaking about it under this slide. So Mayor
Yes.
Measure did ask for clarification under this section to record based on the direction of the clerk. Including that it's at the direction of the clerk, it doesn't have to be. From that conversation that we just had, it appears that council is not open to recording closed sessions. And we can definitely make it a provision in the procedure bylaw. If that process is to change, that it's a council decision and the recommendation would have to be brought forward for council to decide on that. When I put that it's at the direction of the clerk, it's just not that Sasha wants to record closed sessions. It would be on the advice of the ombudsman or a closed meeting investigator. And the intention would be to bring a report to council, but I can definitely see how the wording could be misconstrued. And if I wasn't in this position, it might be taken a different way from a different clerk. So I do believe finding clarity in that is beneficial.
I just want to interrupt you. I just saw someone walking through. Oh, okay, he's okay. I think the door must still be open. And so since there's nobody in the chamber, in the front office right now, I saw somebody who was walking around. I thought I'd mention that. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. I think we understood that. Council, you're comfortable with those comments? All right. Thank you, Sasha. Move on.
Okay, all right. So still on closed session meetings. So under section 5.8 confidentiality,
Yes.
Mayor Measures and the Deputy Mayor have added that virtual attendees must be in a confidential environment setting and use of headphones is recommended. So this is a good addition to the bylaw, as we currently include verbiage within our actual agenda stating that all remote in-camera participants are to be in a remote place, and in a workspace it's in a confidential location with the doors closed and headsets and use of voices can be carried. So I think this is a great addition, and I'll pass it over to the chair for discussion.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments on that? It's pretty understood. FYI, there have been municipalities that have had this very issue come up. And so confidentiality while we're participating in camera is very, very, very important. If you're participating electronically and, during a regular council meeting, that's okay. We want to see your dogs and see your family too. But if you're participating in an in-camera session, absolutely not. Understood? Okay, Paul?
Can you just explain what the comment about headsets used if voices can be carried? Do we have the ability to use headsets if we need them? Are we talking about using headsets?
Yep. Headsets are available through the IT department. If you'd like one, we'll have one for you tomorrow morning. I mean, well, you need one. I mean, if you think you need one.
I'll just explain. We have had to use headsets at NVCA for individuals who can't hear so well. And we've given them headsets, and then everybody must speak into their microphones, and it doesn't work without it. So anyways, thank you.
The headsets comment here is it about if you're participating electronically from home, so that you're wearing headphones so that the audio from your speakers of your computer are not being blasted across the room. Okay? So that's the concept there. And I'm confident through the CAO, we can get headsets for anybody at any time. If you need them, they're available. Yeah. So if you need one, if you don't have one, the CAO will make sure we got you Okay, yes, sir.
Worship, I was just going to say, I asked, Magdalena and I have one at home because I was for that conference online.
Oh,
It
sure,
was a
yes.
benefit to have that. So, yeah, and they work really good. So, yeah, if you need one.
Yeah,
you need
perfect.
To get them.
I keep one in my bag at all times, actually, for my computer. So when I take it with me, it's always with me, so. All right, thank you. We can move on.
Staying on the topic of closed session meetings, Counselor Walker. So he's requested that wording be included that on-desk items provided in a closed session shall be returned to the clerk or their designate upon completion of the closed session. So this is a good addition to include in writing as it's already being done in practice. And then we suggest that we include wording under section 5.8 under confidentiality.
Mr. Walker, any comment you want to add?
Yes, not this council, but previous councils. Unfortunately, sometimes some of the on desk did not be returned. And I just think that we're in camera and whatever we're given needs to be handed back. Whether we put names on the top of each sheet individually so that you know what's collected at the end of the day. This council's been good, but we're also looking at the future with this bylaw, with this policy procedure. So I think we need to make sure that that is there so that people know that it's in camera and whatever you're given, you give back.
Mr.
This question, we had one particular meeting here last year in regards to a development in Ottawa, and we were given nice brochures from the developer. And the comment at the end of the meeting, do you want these back? And they said, no, just keep them, whatever. So I'd be very, some things are meant to be kept, and I would almost question, is it only information provided by the township?
Paul, I don't think that meeting was in camera, though.
It was in camera. And it was not in camera. Okay,
Yeah, I hear you, and I know what you're thinking about, but again, it's really important. Paul or Robert's made a really good point. We need to put this in writing that the in-camera discussions and all the content that we deal with in camera has to remain confidential, and we can prove that by depositing it with the clerk, and the clerk can put it through the shredder if necessary. Right? So that's what that's about. You have to be careful too, by the way, with the confidential discussion about any notes that you might take yourself. Any notes you have to take, if you have to take notes, that's okay. But, those notes, you have to maintain the confidentiality of them. Sometimes if one of the practices that I've done is if I make a note, I'll do it in code so that it doesn't say what it's about.
well, I know.
So that I know what I'm thinking about, I'll use the word dump truck for something and just write it in and, make up words, and that way it's only for my eyes and I understand it when I see it.
I make a habit of when we're doing these meetings with developers and stuff, just get their information right back to them.
Sure.
Because I don't want to be caught with them. I don't want to be,
Yeah.
look what happened at the park in Ottawa when all of a sudden, we've seen this stuff a year ago and they all of a sudden throw it at the people. Well,
Yeah.
They don't know where we're always coming from. So anyways, that's fine. I have no problems with the intent.
All right. Getting me more confused, but that's okay. I'm trying to pay attention. We got it. Thank you so much. Carry on.
All right, so committees and boards. So this is section 6 of the procedure bylaw. So although township committees and boards are required to follow all the procedures in the bylaw, a separate section is needed to outline items specific to these entities and their relationship to council. So for example, appointments, recommendations to council, and notice of meetings. This section supports what is written in committee and board terms of reference and the appointment policy. So some new updates to this area is the addition of notice of meetings, which outlines the best practice for agendas to be posted publicly before the meeting. And then council representative appointments to the committees and boards has been clearly outlined as well, and how recommendations will be made to council from that advisory committee and board. Next slide, please. So Mayor Measures and Deputy Mayor had some feedback, and then they requested that wording be added to state that committee agendas may be set by the chair and staff will confirm with the chair prior to distribution of the agenda. So within the terms of reference, specifically for the hall boards, this is a responsibility of the chair to develop meeting agendas in consultation with the recording clerk. It would be beneficial to include this wording within the procedure bylaw for consistency. And we just happen to have here tonight our committee coordinator, who handles all of those committee meetings with our advisory committees and our hall boards. So I'll pass it over to the chair.
Sure. Thank you. It's nice to have the committee coordinator here with us. Any questions from council about this for the boards? I'm not sure how many of you are chairs of boards. There's a few chairs of boards. Marty, you're a chair of a board. But other members sit on boards. So what's your thought on that? Marty, you're a chair. Let me ask you what you think of that.
Your worship, Lexi does most of the work. I just sit back and watch.
And for sure. Lexi earns her pay scale for sure. No
Lexi
doubt.
does a great
She has
job.
to put up with you, so I'm sure.
Lexi does a great job. The agenda is always appropriate and
Yeah.
what we need. So.
Okay, Robert, go ahead.
I'm gonna throw out this, is it appropriate for council to be a chair of a committee or a board?
That is a good question. That is a good question.
Because
I don't want to paralyze a board, but I can tell you it would be preferable if members of the public were chairs of these boards.
I'm just gonna say, to me, it takes you're backed off of influence. You're there as a member of that board
Yes.
and not one directing that board. So to me, I really think that council should seriously look at not being chair of any board.
Yeah,
Other than here. That's all.
Yeah. Mr. Broderick.
Yeah, I just want to bring one little bit to your attention. Sometimes you don't have a choice. I'm going to use something specific here. This isn't a board, but it is a committee, the Chamber of Commerce. If I hadn't stepped up to be the president of the chamber, we wouldn't have a Chamber of Commerce right now.
And thank you for the leadership. Appreciate that. I hear what you're saying, Robert, and I'll let you speak again, but my comment there is that we have to work with our volunteers and work within the skill levels and the level of commitment that they can provide if we want to continue to move our municipality forward. Go ahead.
Just gonna say, my intention was municipal committees, not external.
Sure.
Not external committees. That's why my comment was regarding that aspect, not the outside.
Understand.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and the reason I use that as an example, because that did happen. And I'm just saying that it could happen elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's all.
I can tell you, Marty's doing a great job as the chair right now. I've been to his board meetings and they're good. Go ahead, Marty.
Well, and I agree with what John's saying. Sometimes there's nobody else wants to be a chair or feels they have the ability, so nobody volunteers, and you hate to put somebody in that position, make them chair when they really don't want to be. And I know Robert was the chair before I was at Station of the Green, so I
Yes.
just sort of took it over because nobody was willing to do that job, so.
I think, Mr. Walker, the comment there is that we do not want to paralyze the board by passing a resolution that says they cannot be the chairs. But it's certainly preferable that the council representatives on all of these boards serve as a council representative and not the board chair. That's my thought. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, just to Marty's comment, my feeling is if there is a moment of despair on that board, that by becoming the chair, that we can hopefully groom and get the enthusiasm back up, that somebody will take over
Sure.
in the future.
Well, that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole succession planning. So, yeah, thank you. Nothing further then on this, members of council? Thank you,
If-
Sasha.
If I can just provide a
Sure.
comment, and I respect, we don't want to paralyze any of our committees. And to your point, you do want people to be more engaged, but public speaking is a big fear and procedures scare people. So I think if you find yourself in that case, it might be nice that you're willing to be the chair for maybe a year and get somebody comfortable and pass it on to a different member. But yeah, we definitely don't want to paralyze our boards. But to your point, it is good that you want people to be engaged and not have influence from a council member. But they also look to you because you guys go to council meetings, you understand procedures. So it's a leadership there that they really look at.
Well done. All right,
All right, meeting
Carry on.
agendas.
come on, we got to get this done.
Okay,
We
time
wanna be
frame.
efficient here.
Efficient.
That's right.
So this section outlines everything from the preparation of the council agenda and the order of business and agenda items. This new provision for any amendments to the agenda, this has previously been referred to as on-desk items or addenda items, and they require a majority voter council to be added to the agenda. So to promote business continuity, the more common practice of municipalities is that the clerk has the discretion to make amendments to the agenda. So this new provision has been added within the procedure bylaw with the inclusion that the mayor will be notified of the amendment prior to posting, and that consideration will be given to the timeframe to which members have the opportunity to sufficiently review the new information. So to your point, when we used to have agendas posted on a Friday afternoon and we had a meeting on a Monday, if we throw a big report on there on desk on a Saturday morning or a Friday afternoon with the expectation for council to make a decision, that's not great for an effective meeting. So we have to be cognizant of those types of things. For delegations and presentations, an update has been made to this section advising that upon hearing a presentation, council is not obligated to make any decisions or formally approve any recommended action provided by the presenter. So this gives time for members to digest the information being provided and possibly provide direction for staff to bring a follow-up report to a future meeting looking for direction. However, there is a provision that if council for any reason feels that it can proceed with a recommended action at the same meeting, it will require a majority vote of council to allow that to occur. So there is a bit of flexibility there, but we want to make it clear to any delegations that council is not obligated to make any decision that night. And then for community announcements and ward reports, so we've added a new section in there that these reports, sorry, I'm just calling up. I'm on a different page, sorry. The bylaw now outlines that these reports are be provided to the clerk by noon, the Monday before the meeting. Under the order of business, community announcements has been moved to the bottom of the agenda. So it's helpful to have some guidance on this section so members understand what type of information to share under announcements, especially when a council is newly elected. Adding in that council member report deadlines has always been in practice, and it's been the same as staff reports. It's Monday at noon, but now it would be formally written. The change to move community announcements to the bottom of the agenda, which we will discuss in further slides, is made to be cognizant that township consultants do attend the council meetings to be present for questions that arise from a staff report, and the meeting can be prolonged with announcements being before the department reports. So, and then more updates, right? Council meeting agendas. So we're at public meetings. So this subsection is further clarification has been provided in the new bylaw regarding the timeframes provided to members of the public who are addressing council in person. Although there's no prescribed time limit at a meeting for a member of the public to speak, parameters have been included in the bylaw providing that the chair at their discretion has the ability to limit a person's time if no new information is being provided within their comments. And this is specific to a public meeting, an actual statutory public meeting. Where written submissions or comments from a member of the public has been provided to the appropriate department responsible for the public meeting, and they still wish to present their comments orally as well, the chair can request that any of their oral comments that reflect their written comments be a summary. Each member of the public shall only be provided one opportunity to present their comments orally. When an organization or group is providing comments orally, they shall appoint one person to present their comments. This is a fair approach and assists in meeting efficiency while still providing the opportunity for everyone who wants to provide comments the ability to do so. And the another addition is that we have an encouragement under this section that council members contact senior managers prior to a meeting to ask any questions or seek clarification on an agenda item. This has been in practice in the past, but something that has now been written to help foster the professional relationship between council and staff. This procedure is helpful to ensure that staff will be able to effectively answer questions at a council meeting if asked, especially if there is a public interest. So moving to our feedback that we received on this section, mayor measures and the deputy mayor, they've requested that it's included under section 7.1 under the preparation of council agenda, that the agenda will be reviewed by the mayor, CEO, and clerk. We have discussed this previously under roles and responsibilities. And I think that we are of the opinion that this should be added in the procedure bylaw, although not mandatory, highlight that it's valuable and beneficial that this practice continues. I'll hand it over to the chair. I think,
Good enough.
okay,
Thank you.
efficient meetings moving forward. So we have received feedback for both Councillor Walker and Mayor Measures regarding the order of business, which is under section 7.4. So if you caught it, council reports and community announcement were moved below department reports. We're currently their number item 11. They were moved below department reports in this new version. Staff made this change, as I specified earlier, when we have consultants attending the meeting, that we are not prolonging the meeting time for them to comment on any staff reports. However, this is not a statutory obligation. This item can easily be moved back into its original place in the order of business. So I'll pass to the chair.
Well, thank you very much for that. Deputy Mayor, you had a comment on this?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Councillor Walker's comment. I like it where it is. And look what happened this past meeting where we were able to even dispel with a notice of motion from Councillor Beelan in regards to the speed limits, all because we were able to inform him in our community or message that we were going to be doing it with the county council on the following day. So there is some efficiencies in leaving it where it is. I'm not one to get too excited about if a consultant or has to sit around for an extra few minutes. This is our council meeting. I like it where it is, but I'll defer to what anybody else's thoughts are.
All right, thank you. Councillor Walker, do you want to add to your comments?
Yeah, the reason I left said leave it where it is we have the option to move any part of the agenda forward as a council meeting. So we have.
Yes, that's
So if
true.
we have a lawyer or whatever there dealing with something else, then we have that option to move it forward and ahead of our ward reports. So that is why I thought leave it there, and then we have that discretion to do that otherwise.
Thank you very much. Other members of council? Nothing more? Madam Clerk, you're comfortable with the decision of council on this, that we can keep the ward reports and announcements in the right area?
Feedback has been heard and received.
10-4.
10-4, Rubber Ducky. So the next one is from Councillor Walker. So under section 7.5, public participation period, ask for clarification if the number of presenters on the same topic with no new information to present can be limited. So this is really at the discretion of the chair to manage. There is only 15 minutes being provided and allotted to the public, with 5 minutes each to speak. If the chair notices a lot of participation regarding one topic, they can ask if there are any other participants wishing to speak on a separate topic, so they are provided with time to get their voices heard from council. I don't think it's important here to provide the difference between public participation and delegations and presentations. Although they may seem similar, as agenda tools, they are used very differently. If a member of the public or an organization wishes to educate council or seek to ask for an action of council, the clerk's department will request that they make a delegation. This is beneficial both for the presenter and for council. Through an official presentation, their item is added to the council agenda, providing notice of their presentation and for other members of the public to see. And it also gives time for council to review the presentation materials and be prepared to ask any questions at the meeting for clarification. And it's a great way to have an engaging conversation about the topic. On the other side, public participation is a tool for the public to come forward before council and make a small inquiry or comments matters pertaining to municipal business, which is usually an item on the agenda. So for example, a member of the public can inquire why the procedure bylaw does not apply to the library board. This is a simple inquiry to any item on the agenda that the mayor and staff can provide an answer to at the meeting. Or a member of the public can comment that the procedure bylaw is too many pages. Public participation is the opportunity to respectfully comment on municipal matters that are of interest to the public. Pass it over to the chair.
Thank you very much for that review. Good comments, Mr. Walker. Do you have anything that you want to add? No? Yes, no? Okay. Counselor Janine is sorry, go ahead then.
I was just gonna say that it's, we've had public participation on certain topics where we've had the room full. And everybody wants to speak, and so we allow them, but it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same paper, it's the same thing they've read, and I think that for efficiency, there may be others in the room that want to talk about something else. And so we gobble that 15 minutes up with just that one topic, and we don't give the others an opportunity. So I think that we need to try and limit the number that are talking about the same thing in the public participation. Because delegations, you're right, are totally different.
Yep.
Totally different thing. So.
That's good. I think you captured it quite well. Counselor Janine?
I've always told people, if they want it on record, make a delegation of it, talk to the clerk's office. Otherwise, it's gone. It's on YouTube, but it's basically gone. So if they want something on the record, do a delegation.
That's fair advice. Thank you for that. Yes, go ahead, Paul.
Thank you, Your Worship. Do we have the ability to limit people to speak only once, or should we be looking at that? For example, our in discussions in regards to the pollinator gardens, we had certain individual come up 3 times. Can I say one more thing? Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
That's what, yeah, you and Doug, the mayor just said, yeah, okay, come on up. I don't know if it's something we should look if I know I agree with you, Phyllis, as far as we should be people should bring delegations in, there's no doubt. But in public participation, they gain their courage as the meeting goes on.
Yeah. One more thing, a little bit of Columbo, I remember. Yeah, okay. I know he's on reruns, but I hear what you're saying. And look, every chair and every mayor will have a different way of doing it. I'm going to just predict. And my thought, I've been very, I believe, generous with my council to allow you guys to speak anytime you want. I don't know how many times I ask, any more comments? Any more comments? And I will do the same with the public. If it starts to get very repetitive, I'll just say, thank you. Have you anything new you want to add? And then I'll do my best. But I think, it's sometimes it's not easy, as you mentioned before, Sasha, that some persons are very nervous about doing public participation. I'm thinking about the concern they had about the sidewalk not getting built over here on Mowat Street. And there was a group of citizens and one person came forward and spoke, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be done. I was very grateful that they handled it well. And to be fair, our staff and our council all reacted to that very well, right? So, that it's just, we have to give this relationship some place to breathe a little bit and some discretion to the chair to be able to move the thing forward. But you're right, they should only speak once. In our procedures here, we could talk about individual counselors only speaking once. There are some councils that do that. It's not the one I want to be in. So, Sasha, anything further?
Thank you, Worship. I see both sides of the coin here, and I think it's very good for the. Oh.
Is that you? That's awesome.
Is that enough?
Phyllis said we almost need a gong. I was just listening for the sound here.
It's awesome.
Okay. But yes, I definitely, for efficiency purposes, it is nice if to only allow people to speak once, but we also have to recognize that they've taken the time and the effort to come in person to a council meeting.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you come from, Mayor Measures, where they've taken the ability to be here in front of council. So we respect that they've done that and to give them the opportunity to speak. So
Sure.
it's hard to manage.
I want them to be comfortable. I want the citizens to be comfortable that they can come and speak. So, good. Okay. Good luck to the future council. Back over to you.
All right, so under section 7.11, request for clarification, Mayor Measures requested that members of council contact the CAO or mayor. So we do think it's beneficial to add this to the section that members are encouraged to contact the mayor and CAO if they have any questions regarding items on the council agenda. It's also important that council can speak to senior managers regarding specific reports and items for their department. This helps to provide clarification and foster a good working relationship between council and staff.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was hoping. I think it's important to know that you're always welcome to reach out to the CAO. You're always welcome to reach out to senior managers on their report specifically. But if you're looking for, any information about a report that's on council before you come to the, if you're not getting an answer, people are on vacation, always go to the CAO and myself, and we'll be able to help you find what you're looking for. So that's where that comes from. Sound good? Thank you. Carry on.
We're moving forward to motions. So as an overview, this section outlines different types of motions and how they are used. And then motions are the tool in which council dispatches the business of the municipality at a meeting. So some new updates. The addition of option motions is now being dealt with procedurally. Before we just had a practice, but now it's written actually in the procedure bylaw. An update on voting on motions. So advising that a motion can be voted on against by the mover and the seconder. This has been practiced, but is not formally outlined. Next slide, please. We had some other updates to motions. So under amendments to motions, the inclusion that only one amendment can be presented to a main motion at one time. And then this practice has always been under Robert's Rules of Order, but can sometimes be forgotten when we get the discussion flowing. And then the procedure on a motion to reconsider has been reworded. Specifically, the 6-month stipulation has been removed, and now motion can be reconsidered once during the term of council. And then we added that when there is a tie vote, it's just deemed and decided in the negative. That is Robert's Rules of Order, but it's never been included in our procedure bylaw. Next slide, please. So we did have some feedback, starting with Councillor MacArthur. So under section 8.1, he's asked to clarify the wording to reiterate that whether it's just the first time a motion is deferred or not, it requires a majority vote to council to pass. So clarifying this section is beneficial, as regardless of the motion, a majority vote is needed to pass. So the sentence can be reworded to state, a motion to defer a matter that has been previously deferred shall require 2/3 votes of council. For example, a council of 7 members will require 5 members to vote in the affirmative for the deferral to pass. I'll pass it over to the chair.
Mr. MacArthur.
Yeah, I think it speaks pretty clear. Just,
It is
just looking
clear.
for clarity.
Yeah.
And take confusion out of it. And Okay.
Right.
really have no more comments.
Paul, you going to say something?
I'm just a little concerned, and it's a notice to reconsider has been reworded that right now we can reconsider after 6 months. And which is fine. I don't have a problem with that part. And has been removed and now can only be considered once during the term of council. So if we have a situation where we're in council for 4 years, it doesn't seem right that we can, something's changed, whether we've, an economic situation, a physical situation. It doesn't seem right that we can't reconsider when we've got new information. Yes, we could rewrite a motion or bring a new motion in similar topic. But if we have a well-written motion, I think it's appropriate that we should be able to redo it, sort of thing.
I think you're jumping ahead some slides. We are going to talk about that in the
Yeah.
next slide.
Okay.
Yes, that is a
Well, I'm
comment
reading it
that's
on the
been made.
number 8
Yes.
Motions there.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
So this
Anybody
one's
else on
specific.
Robert MacArthur's concern here about how something passes? Okay, we're comfortable with that? All right, thank you. Thanks, Robert, for putting that in there. Go ahead, Sasha.
Keeping on the topic of motions, so Mayor Measures requested that section 8.3, a chair moving a motion, be removed to allow the chair the ability to move or second motions without passing the chair. So this section can definitely be changed. However, this provision is contained in many procedure bylaws to promote neutrality of the chair when enforcing procedures, specifically on debate or on a motion. So for example, the town of Collingwood within their procedure bylaw on a section 3.4, the duty of the chair, it states that if the chair or the mayor desires to leave the chair during the meeting for the purposes of taking part in debate or otherwise, they can call on the deputy mayor or the vice chair to preside over the meeting to fill their absence before resuming chair. The city of Guelph states within their procedure bylaw that the mayor or chair shall vote on any motion while in possession of the chair. However, if the mayor or chair wishes to propose a motion, they shall step down and shall not resume the chair until that vote is taken. Like I said, it's not statutorily required, so it's up to council to choose how they want to proceed forward with that. Pass it over.
well, I'll speak to first, and that is that the concept here is that councilors and deputy mayor are permitted to provide a report to council. And they can bring forward a report and they can move that report. But as the mayor, I can't bring a report to council and then represent that report as the chair. I have to pass my chair to the deputy or another person in order to represent a report that I would bring forward. And so I think it's appropriate that the mayor's office and the mayor should be able to be the chair and bring forward a report or bring forward an item for discussion. And so I think that's where I look at it. I'm not looking for the mayor to make the motion to adjourn. That's not where I'm looking at. I'm looking at the, if there's, as the mayor, you're still part of council and you're part of the process that makes council move. And you also consult with the public and you have suggestions and ideas that come forward. And so this is why I think it's important that the mayor has the opportunity to represent their motion from the desk of the office of the mayor. That's my thought. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Well, you've always passed it when you've made
That's
something.
because that's the current procedure.
That's what we've been doing, and I think you should be able to stay as well and just not have to pass the chair. We don't have to.
Yeah,
So why as chair would you have to?
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the idea that you're saying about the impartiality or the neutralness of it. It used to be the case that the mayor didn't vote, and yet now the mayor is required to vote. So in effect, the mayor's vote is the same as everybody else's vote. So there's no business of breaking a tie. There is no breaking a tie even in a recorded motion, because the way a recorded motion procedure, the person who requests it and then it goes by word. So it's not about breaking it. The mayor's vote doesn't do that any further. It doesn't do that anymore. It doesn't break a tie. It just
Seems a
becomes
little
part of how
antiquated.
quorum works. And so the neutrality of it all is it's not needed because the mayor doesn't break ties. It's not
No.
the mayor's vote that breaks a tie. Yes, John has something to say.
Thank you, Worship. So it's an interesting discussion because it's come up at other councils as well. And part of the role of the mayor at the meeting as chair is that when a motion's put forward and council's debating it, council's going back and forth, he's sort of the police officer to make sure everything is fair, like this person's not being too rude or being out of order or whatever the case may be. So the situation is not saying that you would do this, but a mayor could really control who speaks next, who debates next, and a variety of things. And that's really why they want the mayor to step down and let somebody else, so that there's somebody else
Yeah,
to
I see
police
that.
the debate. And that's typically the reason why. But at the end of the day, I've seen mayors stay at the table in the chair, and I've seen them step aside, deputy or another counselor step in just for that item, and then debate it with somebody else chairing the meeting at that time period. That's really the main reason for it, is so that the debate doesn't get out of hand.
Well,
Yeah.
fair enough. And I can see that. If we're looking to create efficient meetings, it's a little bit of procedural gymnastics to move to the alternate chair and then represent your issue. Counselors have the opportunity, like I said, to put a notice of motion on the table. And then they can clearly represent it and basically lead the discussion on it. And all the role here as the mayor is to just, who wants to speak next, and the mayor's role is to do a lot of reading. Obviously, you have to read all these motions over and over and over. So I don't see the benefit of having to just pass the chair. I think that if the debate does get out of hand, a good mayor or a good chairperson would probably, step away from being the police officer as you outlined. But neither here nor there. I just think that if we're going to be modernizing how we do things, I don't think it's necessary to do that gymnastic move. Go ahead, John. this is John over here first, John Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I can appreciate what you're saying. My question, well, I'm gonna start with a statement. Not every mayor is as open or as fair as you,
Fair enough.
to start with. My question is going to be to the CAO, since you've seen it operated both ways. Can you give us examples how it either worked or didn't work?
I can think of one instance, I won't name the mayor but the mayor had put a motion forward and it was seconded. And he can open the debate and then close the debate on the issue. And, other people were disagreeing with the mayor's position at that time period. And, he wasn't allowing them to really state their position. So the council themselves asked that the mayor step out of the chair position so somebody else could chair to police that disruption. Now, these are extreme circumstances that they can occur, but you're putting it in your procedural bylaw. And that's the thing, right? That mayor measures may not be a problem in that circumstance, but 5 years from now, there might be another mayor, or 10 years from now, there might be another mayor that may not do that. That's all. And it's really, to a certain extent, you have the second caveat that council can appeal to the whole of council at any time as well. If a councillor felt the mayor was being unfair at a meeting over an item that he was bringing forward, those councillors can still appeal to the rest of councillor to say, look, we'd like to reel the mayor in on this circumstance. Maybe he could do this or do that. And that can work as well. Not all councils are fully aware of what they can do in those circumstances. That's all. So that's primarily the reasons. It's not, none of this would be fatal, but it's really there for that reason. And not to say that's occurred here, because the debate here is very respectful, but in some council chambers, that's not the case.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. The deputy mayor, shall I pass the chair to you? Go ahead.
Madam Clerk, a quick question for the, if the mayor brought a motion as a normal council would do, you would still be vetting that entire motion, correct?
Through your worship to the deputy mayor, correct. As with any motion that any council makes and even any recommendation staff makes, as long as it follows legislation, it's within council's decision-making body to make that decision. Yes, that is what I do as an administrator, as the clerk. So it wouldn't matter if it was the mayor or yourself, that's right across the board.
And we already declare pecuniary interest prior to the meeting, so I don't see any reason why the mayor couldn't make a motion subject to being vetted through yourself first, because it's just like one of us doing it. I'd be asked to make a motion on behalf of the mayor. So, and we see in as far as mover and seconder, it can still fall in deaf ear if he doesn't get a seconder to agree with it, sort of thing. So,
And just for clarification, the mayor can submit a notice of motion, can submit a report to council. But to the mayor measures point is that when that comes up on the agenda, currently our procedure bylaw states that he needs to pass the chair to another member. So when you're present, it's to the deputy mayor in order to make that notice of motion and to be the mover for that council notice of motion. So if it's a council report, same thing, he would pass the chair so that the debate could occur.
just a caveat to that, would you be, like, if he brings a notice of motion, traditionally, I guess you could say, yes, he could make a motion to it, but he would also have the option to look for a mover or a seconder to do that report
Yeah, that's
as
true.
well. So he doesn't have to necessarily move his own report, sort of thing. So there's, as long as we're clear with that sort of thing. Thank you.
Well, yes. I look at it that the mayor's office and the work of the mayor has the opportunity to bring forward ideals to the council table and recommend them, just like each of other members of council have the opportunity to bring forward a recommendation. And the procedures are being laid out here that we would obviously, if you want to have a full written motion, which we would, is one of our requirements, we would submit it to the clerk and it would then be available. I think the point is that, as the chair, you should just be able to move that motion and have the debate. And you'll all get a chance to read it on the agenda well before you actually come to the table. So you have the information, just like you would review anybody else's report. I just look at it this way, that being the mayor, I don't get that opportunity to do that. Right? Like as you said, I could submit notices of motion, I could submit reports, but the gymnastic move has to happen where we have to transfer the chair back and forth in order to move the procedure forward when I'm already the chair. So.
And to Mayor Measure's point, it's because he wears essentially two hats at a meeting. He's the mayor, member of council, but he's also the chair presiding over the meeting.
Yeah.
He has different roles and responsibilities under the procedure bylaw. So that's why that gymnastics has been included in procedure bylaws. But to his point, the efficiency is, do we need to deal with the gymnastics of moving things?
Not to try to throw a wrench on it, but I do want to point out too, our boards that are going to be following this too, there are many board chairs who have information that they work on, they want to bring forward. Like they want to do it too. So, you know, they should be able to move the motion and discuss it at their board meetings and carry on. So that's where this is coming from, to be honest. I also think it's just a modern way to do things. There's other municipalities do it. If it turns into a problem, as John pointed out, the council can always appeal to all of council. You can use the term point of order, and you can also use, what's the other point, John? It's not point of order, but it's the
That's correct. Yeah.
point of privilege, which is the other part. The point of privilege is about you as the counselor have the privilege. Yes. Did you have a question? Do you have a point of privilege? Would you like? Okay. Turn your mic on. Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Did you have something you want to add?
Just gonna say that this bylaw is not just for now, but for the future. So
Sure.
we have to try and make sure that our wording and our thoughts are looking forward as well in case. Sometimes you don't get an appropriate council that does things the way they should. And I think we need to keep that in mind as we're moving forward with this, that this council works well together. But there is a possibility that when we're passing this, that the next council may not. And so we've got stuff there that is going to come back and bite us. So I think we have to be very careful on this process.
Mhm.
And the amount of times, and I'm just gonna make a comment, the amount of times that the mayor has brought forward anything is not a whole lot. So passing the chair, I think, is also allows the option to the public that not only is he the chairman and head of council, but he's also passing the chair because he has some item that he wishes to bring forward in public session. And it's not maybe a preconceived thought process. That's just and then my other comment was the halls. Are the chairmen of the halls then going to want to do the same? And if they do, again, we're protecting those hall boards with the stepping down and allowing things, because things can happen there as well when we don't have that. So I personally like to see it left the way it is.
Okay.
But then that's my own personal view.
We could leave this open for now because either way works. I was just looking to help us modernize a little bit. That's all. I'm comfortable with the direction from Sasha. Anybody else? Carry on, madam.
Right. Continuing with motions, so Mayor Measures requested that section 8.14 be amended to state that council may consider an entire resolution that was decided only during the term of council rather than any term of council. So our commentary is this change can definitely be made. Is ultimately the decision of council is how far back you would like the reconsideration to be permitted. In the current bylaw, so not the draft one, but the current one, there are no parameters regarding the term of council. It only states that if a matter has been previously reconsidered, it shall not be reconsidered by such body within the next 6 months after the meeting at which it was originally considered, without the consent of a majority of the members present. So there are additional parameters outlined in the procedure bylaw regarding the motion to reconsider that may assist with reconsiderations being made from previous terms of council. So for example, no resolution shall be reconsidered more than once during the term of council. A resolution that was decided by council cannot be reconsidered if action has been taken implementing the resolution, resulting in a legally binding commitment, including financial or in a place on the day of the motion to reconsider by council. So it's important that council has the ability to reconsider previous decisions while respecting business continuity. So there is no statutory requirement regarding this, so it's really at the whim of council as to how far back you want to go. I'll pass it to the chair.
Yeah. So my thought, you see, is that when I read this and I had this conversation with Sasha in my office about it, I thought, if we make a decision, if we pass a resolution, that if it needs to be reconsidered, we will have to do that reconsideration at the term that we're in. So the next term of council can pass a resolution to rescind the actions of the council. Like they can rescind a bylaw, or they can pass a new resolution that removes it or changes it or whatever. You know, they can direct staff to rewrite it, the policy, you know, but that's another term. That's not up to the people who made the decision in the first place. So if we have new information that we want to reconsider a fact or reconsider an action, then we make that decision to reconsider it during our term of council. That's how I see it working. John wants to speak. Go ahead.
So this one has come up at other councils as well. And the reconsideration, in some instances, had to be brought by somebody who was on the prevailing side originally.
Yes.
That is
So
correct.
so if it was, everybody voted, it's really not an issue if somebody brings it up 6 months later to reconsider it. But if it wasn't an even vote and somebody that was on the nay side of the vote didn't get their way and wants to have it reconsidered, and it wasn't the majority decision, it's meant to prevent that. Okay? And then, but a reconsideration vote also, you can reconsider it at the same meeting. So if you made a decision earlier in the meeting and you had a second thought about it and you were on the prevailing side, you could make a reconsideration at the same meeting. But after that, you gotta wait 6 months.
Because
Yeah.
we pass a thing called
Yeah.
the confirmatory bylaw.
Yeah.
When you pass a confirmatory bylaw, it does effectively advise the clerk that we confirm what we did, but it also then advised the other staff that they can now take action upon the decisions that we've made. So that's the two-part thing that does. So like you said, once we pass the confirmatory bylaw, even before adjournment,
Yeah.
like, once that's passed, it's passed.
Yeah.
And you can't make any further during that meeting.
Yeah.
Right? Sash, do you agree with me?
That's correct. And to provide clarity, that is included in the procedure bylaw that you have to vote in majority with respect to the previous decision in order to make the reconsideration. And then we've also included that no resolution shall be reconsidered more than once during the council term. So keeping it within the council term is more than appropriate.
Comfortable?
A rescind motion is different.
Yes, we're talking about a reconsideration at this point.
A rescind is about, yeah, like a reconsideration or just elimination of an action. Yeah. Okay. Getting a little semantic-y here, but yes, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Paul, go ahead.
Just one clarification, Sasha, we will, as a council, will only be able to deal with reconsiderations on motions that we have made within our term of council.
That is correct if you want to make the change to the draft version. Currently, it states any term of council, but it's been suggested maybe just only the term of council.
Okay, so if we wanted to do something, say the previous council had turned something down, we would have to create a new motion at that time and not a reconsideration.
Right.
Okay,
And the caveat is that when you go from term to term, the expectation is probably some legally binding action has been taken
For sure.
on that act, like on that motion. Not all, but I think majority of that.
okay, so I agree with the comment that we only deal with stuff within our own council, not previous or not future. And that we have a 6 months to reconsider after we've made the motion or we want a reconsideration of the motion. I'm not sure that only once in a council that like, let's say we had at the start of our first year of a council, we have a motion, we want it reconsidered in six months. 3 years from now, something changes. We can't touch that topic again. Am I correct in saying that?
That is correct. And that's to not stall the business continuity of the municipality. So if you had one in your first year and you reconsidered it within your first year, and then in your third year, you're like, oh, we want to reconsider that again. Most likely, action's already been taken on that decision that you probably wouldn't be able to reconsider it because we would be in legally binding situations or monies would have been spent.
But we can consider a new motion in similar terms, like, if we decide not to say invest in something or borrow money or something, get turned down twice, well, then all of a sudden, 3 years later, we get a chance to do it.
If you enter into a contract,
Right.
right, and then you rescind the contract, so you've dealt with that and now you deal with the fallout of your decision to rescind. But then you can't pass another resolution to get back into the contract again. Like,
So for example, the last term of council near the end used this reconsideration motion.
Yes.
It's not used very much, and it was in regard to speed signs and traffic calming. And it was reconsidered regarding the 10th line and Fairgrounds Road. So it was reconsidered, brought back forward at the state when it was first presented to the council, and that decision was made. So after that, Public Works went out and spent money, bought signs, we passed bylaws. So at that point, the reconsideration wouldn't be able to be made after that first reconsideration because we're in legally binding situations where we've spent money and we've had bylaws passed.
okay, you're gonna go over to Robert Walker.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that, to reconsider outside our own term, our current term, like there's all kinds of new information coming forward. So as updates and things move forward, so to do this with the current term is great. And also to Paul saying, if at the end of we say something, we can always bring forward a new motion, change the motion somewhat and bring it forward to deal with that's happened 2 or 3 years ago. So.
Yeah, instead of painting it forest green, we paint it lime green. So we've made another decision. Yes, John?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm thinking of something specific. In the last term, or sorry, a former council, a decision was made, and I'm going to use the ATV bylaw for this one. And personally, I think the decision from that was due to bias. In this council, we looked at it from a very different perspective and passed the bylaw. This would prohibit that.
No, it wouldn't, because the decision was about prohibiting. So it's a negative bylaw. So we passed the changes based on it being a inhibiting bylaw. Right?
Okay.
So council voted on the prevailing side. So everybody supported the motion. So if somebody wants to reconsider it even after, like it can be beyond 6 months, they can still reconsider it, but you have to be on the side that voted for it to begin with, that reconsider it.
And I think you just brought up a very good point there, and probably don't tell my husband, but I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. That just reminded me. So if we're talking about prevailing sides, it should be in the same term of council because that council member, it might be a whole new council. So then the reconsideration wouldn't work because there could be nobody on the prevailing or the negative side.
Right.
Okay.
So it's difficult. It's always new information. It's always changes of the public's opinion. And as you just said, if you just said you're not perfect, neither are we. We're humans too, and we're part of this community, and we're citizens doing the best we can. And so this is why this procedure does need to be a part of our procedure bylaw to have a reconsider, but it is nice, it's appropriate to keep it within the term of council. That's the appropriateness of it, you know, and to make a change back to the ATV issue, as I was saying, that's an enabling bylaw, right? The prohibition was put in place. Now the enabling is in place, right?
Okay.
Motions, remember, always move forward. So,
Okay.
John?
So council could vote on a contract to say, okay, we'll enter an agreement with this person for 5 years to do this work. And then somebody wants to reconsider that down the road, you can reconsider it. The council's business is perpetuative. So you bear the repercussions of changing that decision. So there could be a financial fallout
For
from
sure.
getting out of that contract, right? So, but council can still do that, but knowing what that means,
Right.
right?
Thank you. We all good? That's a good topic. Let's move on.
I should turn on my microphone. Rules of debate.
Oh, point of order and privilege.
So the procedures regarding rules of debate have largely remained the same from the current bylaw to the new draft version. We just formatted for ease of reference. We did add in the section 9.2 points of order or privilege and how a member can appeal the decision of the chair, which we just talked about. Next slide. These images are courtesy of our deputy clerk. She added a little finesse to our slides. So we didn't receive any specific feedback regarding the section from council. However, this is your opportunity to address anything that may have arisen and kind of jogged your memory from our discussion today. So I'll pass it to the mayor. Anything?
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Clerk, for adding that in there. It's more of, very parliamentary versus WWE. Okay. I have no concern about this. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions on this? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Okay.
So the next slide is our last slide and it's next steps. So we're going to take into consideration the discussion and comments made during this special meeting. We're going to make updates to the draft procedure bylaw to present to council for final approval in October. And then once approved, the new bylaw will be communicated and sent to council as well as our committee and board members. And if there's any other comments from council, otherwise it's the end of the presentation.
Well, thank you. If anybody else got any questions? All right. It's been a long meeting, but this has been very helpful. I'm glad we did it in this format. This has been very, very good actually to review this. All right. Council, anything further on this topic as the clerk makes her way back? Seeing none. This is a special meeting, but we do have the confirmatory bylaw to confirm the proceedings of this meeting. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw number 2463 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the September 12, 2024 special council meeting be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on the 12th day of September 2024. That'll be moved by Mr. Broderick, Mr. MacArthur. Thank you very much, gentlemen. All those in favor? Thank you. Now that that's confirmed, I have to ask, why do we have to keep saying read first, second, third time, finally passed? You know, that's another one of those long-term, long-standing things, but whatever. We'll move on. Go ahead.
Your worship, in the past,
Yeah,
years back, you read that, you did read it 3 times. You didn't get the option of
I know.
first, second, and third. You did read that whatever it was
Yeah,
every time for 3 times.
yeah,
So
I
You're
know.
very fortunate with that.
By the way, previous clerk used to write that out as first, as in 1 ST, second 2 ND, first. So I prefer it written in English in language. So thank you for it being formatted that way. This is the motion to adjourn and the time is, 5:49? Does that sound good? 5:49 PM. Deputy Mayor, would you like to move that? Mr. Beelan, would you like to move that? Second that? Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn, be it resolved. Council meeting will adjourn at 5:49 PM. Thank you all in favor. Thank you. Terrific meeting. Like these ton of workshops.